I saw an Instagram live of you with Rachel Cohen, and you were talking about music together. I really loved it. But you were talking about a topic that was finding new ways to approach the whole tone scale and whole tone. And you were talking about playing exercises by someone where the exercises you're playing whole tone, but it doesn't sound like whole tone. And right when you said that, I was like, yeah, I love the thought of that. But then I had to go and I didn't get to hear who you were talking about. Also, I want to know what your continuing story with the whole tone spectrum has been since then, and where you are with that right now.
Sure. Yeah. So in this conversation, which first, shout out to Rachel. We had a lot of fun. There's two things that first really got my attention on this sound in a way that was, interesting to me. And in terms of the exercises, I could have possibly been referring to this book by Guy Lesoir is his name. He wrote a classical saxophone etude book, essentially dealing with all of these different modes. And a lot of the modes are based actually on Messiaen and some of the modes that he's using in his music. And the first couple of them are dealing with a kind of a whole tone sound. The next couple of them are dealing with a diminished sound. And then from there, there's all sorts of kind of interesting other modes, hybrid modes, things like that, were previously pretty unfamiliar to me. And I wonder if in terms of those exercises, that might have been what I was talking about. And I think those are some really cool exercises for any instrument, but they work great on the horn. And for, other whole tone things that I think about sometimes, there's one solo in particular that was pretty pivotal for me in really wanting to get deeper into the sound. And that's Jackie McLean's solo on Our Man Higgins, from Lee Morgan's record Cornbread.
Yeah.
Because on Our Man Higgins, it's essentially a long form B-flat blues, but the first two choruses of each person's solo is kind of a whole tone sound. So it's still the long form blues, but it's like a, B-flat sharp 5, B-flat 7 sharp 5 sound, to E-flat 7 sharp 5. All the chords have that sound.
Yeah.
And then it's two choruses of not that sound. And that seems to be the repeated form. And Jackie McLean's solo, to me, everyone sounds incredible, but the way that Jackie was dealing with this sound sounded so fluid to me, as if he was playing anything. It sounded so integrated into his rhythmic language already, in a way where he wasn't necessarily playing patterns. He wasn't necessarily playing familiar whole tone shapes that you hear more commonly. He was really playing it, as a part of what he heard and as a part of his rhythmic language and concept. So that was really inspiring to me. And I started thinking about all the ways in which you could do something like that with a whole tone sound. And I think that it's challenging to do that with a whole tone sound, because I think by nature, the whole tone scale can feel a bit clunkier rhythmically. The amount of notes in it, the fact that there's only two to work with and move between. I think that when I first started really dealing with it, I realized why it's a trickier sound to integrate rhythmically, at least into one's playing, in a way that I feel like maybe the diminished sound almost lends itself better, initially at least, to this kind of fluidity of the rhythmic language. And you have people who, George Garzone comes to mind. The way that he works with the diminished sound is the same. It's so integrated into the way he hears music and to his rhythmic concept and language. And so I have spent some considerable time trying to see if I can find a way to have that same sort of fluidity with, I mean, with whole tone, but with kind of any sound that I think is interesting. And
Yeah.
I have certain reference points for that, like Jackie, like George Garzone. Youssef Lateef is another one that I feel has such a groundedness in the way that he's utilizing certain sounds. And also I definitely use Monk and Charlie Rouse as a pretty significant reference point for this sort of thing. There's times where the augmented sound is extremely overtly used in Monk's music, and then there's times where it's maybe less overt, but it's still there. And I think also that the rhythmic concept of Monk and Charlie Rouse, I found, can lend itself actually pretty well to this kind of whole tone sound, and really thinking a lot about, you know, for them, where they're, you know, listening to how they're starting and ending their phrases and where in the measure,
Yeah.
and how they're using certain subdivisions like quarter notes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Charlie Rouse uses a lot of quarter notes, but it's the way that they're organized in the bar that makes it feel the way it feels, I think. And the way that they're organizing their phrases within the bar in relation to one another too is really special. I mean, for me, I think that, you know, I mean, this is getting down different roads, of course, but, you know, for me, Charlie Rouse, I think that relationship with him and Monk is one of the greatest musical relationships ever. And I think it's something really special and really unique and really beautiful. And so I love listening to them and listening to the way in which they're hearing one another, and their rhythmic concepts are coming together and creating this shared language that I think is so unique and special. So using them as a frame of reference for this sort of thing too, and beyond, you know, I mean, I also have for the last couple years been spending time with what I was telling you about with the, you know, the organization of things within the bar, and using those guys and really looking at how they're doing that, regardless of whatever harmonic device or sound I'm kind of dealing with. But I have found that this study does really help with integrating this kind of tricky sound.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a slippery sound because there's
Yeah.
not many, in a way, like either like you could think of it like there's no resolution point where you can land, or like only resolution points. You know what I mean? Like, because
Totally.
if you see, in a way, it's like two augmented chords next to each other in a whole step, right? I mean, two augmented triads next to each other.
Yeah.
But what's that's what helped me back then, actually, when I began thinking about that scale or that sound a little bit more. It's like all the notes that are not in the scale, actually the passing notes that make each of the notes of the whole tone scale like resolving points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And that's like something that Coltrane, I think, does when he's playing the whole tone sound. You hear also other sounds that are not part of the whole tone sound, using them as passing notes to strengthen the pillars of the whole tone sound.
Totally. And I'm glad you brought up Train, because, you know, I obviously wouldn't want to move on from this conversation without talking about that and without talking about One Down, One Up.
Yeah.
You know, and that sound and the way that
Yeah.
he's exploring. I mean, that's an exploration of that sound for what, 30 minutes or something. I mean, it's incredible. But like you said, there's a lot of things in there that help give it that kind of momentum. And I mean, that's bebop too. I mean, that's, you know, that's also dealing with, you know, the similar kind of idea with what Barry Harris is his concepts, his educational concepts about the flat six and how that is part of the major scale, that, you know, it, and how all of these sounds derive from the inclusion of that note, and how it gives us those diminished chords that give all that momentum. And I went to his classes. I used to go to his classes, and I remember one time he said, every chord is a dominant chord. And if every chord is a dominant chord, every chord can be a diminished chord.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think, right. well, I'll try. I think, you know, he didn't elaborate exactly, but my interpretation of that, which could be wrong, but my interpretation of that, I think, is that, you know, first of all, I think a dominant chord inherently has, in a way, what we're talking about here, you said it earlier, both a desire to resolve, but also in the case of like a blues, it's also is what it is. It's the sound that we are at. And there is a movement, but there's also a way in which it also can still feel like the arrival point, or feel like the home. Yeah. Even though theoretically there's this desire to resolve. And you hear that happen sometimes. I mean, you hear, I think, people finding ways to create forward motion, even in the case of a chord that doesn't seem like it needs to have the forward motion, like a major chord in a certain place in the form, where that might feel very final, but there's a way to create momentum through that. Or vice versa. A chord that feels like it needs a lot of momentum, there's a way to make it feel like an arrival point, I think. And so, you know, that's one thing that I've gotten from that. Or in the case of a rhythm changes or something, you know, I mean, in a way, you know, you could simplify it down so much that the entire A section could be one dominant chord.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than several passing chords surrounding B flat major. Let's say if it's a B flat rhythm changes, B flat major 7, or you know, it could be B flat 7, it could be F7, it could be B flat 7 and E flat 7, and that's it, or something. You know, it could be that kind of sequence. And then if it's just F7 or B flat 7, then it could also be this, that, and the other. And so there becomes a way in which you can move through it in all these different ways, which, you know, a lot of people, right, have taken to the nth possible degree. You know, one little kernel of an idea here, of a harmonic idea, people might spend the rest of their life, you know, really devoting themselves to that idea. And then I think then that idea of every chord could be a diminished chord, I think it's another sense of just momentum, of movement, of diminished chords have such velocity to the sound. And you can create that sort of movement and that velocity through finding different ways to use the sound. I mean, we know all these different applications of ways in which we are familiar with the use of a diminished sound. I mean, and even, you know, obviously taking like one diminished, right? If you're
stars, I was just thinking of stars, where
totally
like the one is there, but the first thing that we hear is like diminished going to the one major.
So it's like there's a way in which we understand that sound is satisfying and is pleasing, and there's ways maybe to extend the sound, push the sound, prolong the sound to get to that final kind of satisfactory place, you know, and there's a lot of dialogue in the saxophone world for sure about diminished, much more so I think than whole tone.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of there's a lot of people. One of my earliest saxophone teachers back in Portland, Oregon, where I grew up, is a man named David Valdez, and he was obsessed with this stuff. I mean, he gave me a copy of the Slonimsky book when I was like 16. I remember looking at it and being like, what is this? Like, I don't know what any of this means, you know? And now I've spent more time looking at it and delving into it a little bit and
I love
trying
it so
to
much.
understand. I know, yeah, it's incredible, and you're starting to see some of these relationships, starting to understand how some of these things are organized and conceived and put together. I feel like there's a lot of study, a lot of conversation about that within the community, and so I think it's really interesting. The Barry Harris stuff. I mean, all of my students deal with that, you know, and the role of the diminished in his whole concept. These sounds have always been just really interesting to me, and I think my biggest goal with them personally is to just be able to hear it in a way that feels natural, you know, like the people I mentioned earlier, like Jackie, like George Garzone, you know, like Coltrane, like Youssef, be able to integrate them and really hear them and be able to use them in the way that feels integrated and feels part of my rhythmic language.
Yeah, I remember like I also went to a couple of Barry's online classes.
Oh yeah,
right until the time when he passed away, and it was beautiful. I remember him talking about also like that the major scale doesn't have. And you were talking about this as well, like with the whole tone sound. The major scale doesn't really have a rhythmic pull until we add the minor six in there.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it all falls into place and it becomes easier.
Yeah, right. It's brilliant, and one of the easiest ways to demonstrate why this works is and I'll do this for students sometimes, is I'll just play a major scale in time up and down.
Yeah.
And you notice what notes fall on, again, what parts of the measure. And then you do the same thing with the flat six, and you notice what notes fall on the different parts of the measure, right? You have in the front part of the measure, you have the minor six, or sorry, the major six or the minor six chord. And in the second half, you have the diminished. And it's beautiful. It's so perfectly constructed. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. And when we do this with the whole tone scale and the passing tones, it becomes you know, it also falls into place. And it becomes a chromatic scale. But but if you still hear it in a whole tone vibe, like coming from that place, if you play this and you know, then it all makes sense somehow.
Yeah.
Greetings. My name is Sam Amadon, and you are experiencing the Pablo Held Investigates podcast. And I am experiencing the Pablo Held Investigates podcast as I do every week. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to go so deep with Pablo and the musicians he talks to. I go back and forth between the conversation, and I'll pause and go to listen to the musical examples, and then I'll return to the conversation. It's profoundly beautiful and enriching. And if you connect with this podcast as much as I do, I highly recommend that you support Pablo on Patreon, because it keeps the podcast going and it provides a whole backdrop to a whole other dimension of the investigation. There's two tiers. There's a general listening podcast supporting tier, which has background materials and other stuff around reflections on Pablo's listening. And then there is a more of a practicing instrument lesson type tier, which is even deeper and more specific. I hope you support it and check it out, because these are the kinds of things that keep the world turning at this time in our universe. See you out there in the investigation zone with Pablo.
This song from your latest album by the bassist Tyrone Allen.
Yeah.
There's also a whole tone moment in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, actually the pickups to the song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's whole tone.
Yeah. We were talking about this, and this song is like, I've been listening to this album so much this last days. Like different songs come up, but we were talking about this, so this song is right here, right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that tune. Tyrone's a great composer among many, many things, but Yeah, we love that tune. We love playing that tune. And it's interesting because it does start with that sound, and then actually as the tune progresses, there is more of a like diminished sound. There is a little bit more of like a major 7 sharp 5 at certain times, but it's kind of like this push pull of different kinds of diminished with different kinds of resolution points, but then those resolution points kind of stretch as well. So it's funny. Yeah, that tune is kind of dealing a lot with what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's also just it's a beautiful tune, and the way that it moves, and the space that kind of is inherent in the structure of the song, really illuminates this kind of moving through and finding these spaces and finding ways to propel and also ways to remain, and it really generates a lot of possibility for finding spaces.
Yeah. I also love the moment when it happens on the record, like when it, like in sequence of the whole record, where it is in the spectrum of the whole record. I just love that it's so early for a slow piece like that. You know, I think you have 2 ballads on the album, and one is the penultimate, and this one is the third. I just love the sequence of the record so much.
Oh, thank you. Sequencing, you know, it's like,
yep,
it's one of the hardest parts.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the hardest part.
How many nights did it cost you?
That one,
album?
I don't even remember. But you know what? It's several. But I think it's funny I'm sure we'll touch on this more, at some point. But I'm releasing a record next month, and I think that sequence took me even longer.
Oh, I don't know about. I'm not on Instagram anymore since.
Oh, good for you!
Months,
I love that. Oh.
I didn't get. Let's talk about this when we get there, please. I want to know everything.
We'll put a pin in that, but this one too. The sequencing for me is honestly the most difficult part. It's more difficult than selecting takes. Yeah, for sure. Actually, I actually kind of feel like the take selecting process is for me kind of easy, actually.
Do you know because it in the moment?
No, not always. Mm-hmm. Do you? I'm curious.
No, I just like I mean, it's like very rarely I feel it in the moment, and I'm like, fuck, don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
I've felt that too. I've definitely felt that too before, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. It depends. Sometimes you can tell that it was a strong collective showing. Yeah. But I've also had, I've had everything happen. I've had it happen where I was like, that was trash, won't be using that. And then I listen back and I'm like, wait, I actually like that one. Yeah. So it's so situational, but I think the take selecting for me is usually pretty easy, because I think for me, the take reveals itself pretty obviously. Yeah.
Do you do a playlist of the takes and then listen in sequence stuff, or how do you do it?
Oh yeah, I do a playlist. Well, I do the takes that I like, and I make a playlist. I will put them on Apple Music or something, because with Apple Music you can go in there and I just learned this. You can go in and you can edit the start and end time of the track. So I don't have to go through and try to cut out all the silence and stuff, because as you know, I'm not super technically gifted, technologically gifted. So I can just go on there and say to start here, start there. And then it really is like listening to the record, and I can have it on my phone, and I'll even put perspective album art, or I'll put the photo that I know I'm going to use, so it can really feel like listening to the record, and I have the visual. So it feels like this is what it's going to feel like, and I'll try all sorts of different things, and Usually I know right away what the first and last tune are. And actually, I usually like to figure out the first 3 tunes and the last tune.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And honestly, I like ballads early. If it makes sense to do it. It's funny because on my upcoming one, the 3rd track also happens to be a ballad.
Nice.
I definitely have structural things that I find myself gravitating towards. Yeah. Sometimes what I realize is I won't even put necessarily like the 2nd track on the album. I think is really important too. I think about like film and books and things like this too. And I think about like sometimes the first scene in the movie, right? It depends on the movie. Sometimes it's a slow unveiling of the setting and the situation, right? And sometimes it is not slow at all. Sometimes you are dropped immediately into what is happening, right? Sometimes it's a cold open. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the intro is really character driven, and sometimes it's not. It's setting oriented. And so I will think about an album as being like a movie or like a book and trying to figure out just what kind of story is this? What kind of movie is this? And how does it need to start? And how does it need to end? Does it end suddenly? Does it end on a sentimental note? Does it end with a cliffhanger? All that sort of thing. And so obviously with good stories, there's structural elements that are consistent. I really am interested in and inspired by the stuff that Joseph Campbell talks about with the monomyth and the hero's journey, structural element of great stories, right? And some people don't like it because they feel like now that structure just gets copied and pasted all the time. But his idea was not that a good story needs to be built off this construction. It was the opposite. It's like the chicken and the egg, It was like, no. The good stories happen to have these similar structural elements because they echo, it's like a metaphor of your life and the inner search for actualization and who you are and that sort of thing. And so, there's a way in which these structures naturally arise. And still, even within these structures, there's a lot of room for creativity, for breaking molds, we play a music based on structures. And there's a lot of creativity that is, operating within these structures. So, I think the structures exist for a reason. And so I find it really inspiring, and I use it a lot of the times to help me with my sequencing.
How does the hero's journey apply to the Plays album?
So that's a good question. I think
we start with open or close.
Yeah, right. I almost put that first or last. And then I decided with first.
I think it's a great way to open the record.
Thank you. I almost put the Fox first, but I liked the idea of having it be second. Yeah,
absolutely. After you've opened up this space with this first piece, and then you go into this thing, which is something that is maybe a little bit more well known than open or close.
Yeah.
But we haven't. I haven't heard it in a trio context yet. The Fox,
Yeah.
And a lot of those pieces are like I haven't heard them a lot of them in a trio context.
Yeah.
Or quartet with vibes.
Yeah, with that record, the concept for me for that was kind of just to introduce us as a trio and just play some tunes that we like to play, you know, kind of as simple as that, you know, the way that we like to deal with certain repertoire and tunes that maybe are not so commonly played. I mean, for the first couple of years that we were playing together, that's what we did is, you know, I just wanted it to be a group where any tune that we had ever wanted to play, but maybe didn't have a reason to play it or the right circumstance to play it, to bring that tune in and to play it. Approach. So that was cool. Yeah, that was kind of the idea. So, you know, in terms of that record, in terms of sequencing, I didn't use the hero's journey structure as overtly on that one. There were certain things that I drew from, for sure, like the way that, like you said, we're opening it and how I wanted to do that. And I also thought a lot about how to sequence it in terms of Steve Nelson's presence on it and how he really is a character. Yeah. He is a different sound. He provides something really different. And so thinking about where that belongs, when it's time to, when you need to hear that sound again, that sort of thing. And so I think I went a little bit more intuitively on that one. On this upcoming one, it was actually extremely overt. Like I had lists, I was writing out structures from the hero's journey and like thinking about how the tunes moved and how they moved together and thinking about them a little bit narratively, but also more than that, thinking about the actual music, the actual sound of the song, and what that function could have in the trajectory of this you know, album or this story, I guess. So I really was thinking about it in terms of the music first, but thinking about it almost like trying to sequence it like it's a soundtrack almost to a movie or something. So that one I got much more specific with, for sure.
Cool. Who's on it? I want to know now.
Yeah, so it's Tyrone and Kayvon again, Tyrone Allen and Kayvon Gordon, and we have another special guest who plays on 2 tracks, and it's a cellist.
Oh, nice.
Named Lester St. Louis, great cellist who lives in Brooklyn, and he guests on a couple tracks. And this one is much more original composition focused, both from us and from our peers, actually. We recorded a couple of tunes by just friends of ours in the community, and that ended up becoming really important to the identity of the record itself, and you know, how it kind of ended up taking shape. Because we talked about it one day and we realized it's always been like that. Yeah. People, you know.
Yeah, but it kind of went out of fashion.
It kind of did.
Yeah, and the idea of a standard is like everybody gets very precious about their own music a little bit. Like we're doing our music and we're moving away from, that's a hip tune, I want to play that too. Yeah. And that's how we built the canon of this music and how it has been built, you know, by just saying that's a cool tune, let's do it.
Yes, absolutely. And even tunes have even taken on different shapes and different lives due to other recordings of them. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like Round Midnight. Yeah. Right. From what I understand, I'm pretty sure that at least the outro
Dizzy.
Is Dizzy.
Yeah. But there's also some credit to Cootie Williams, the trumpet player. Yes. And the intro, I don't know if it's Dizzy or if it's, Monk's starts like right on, like, right?
I think the first, I could be wrong, but I think the first recording of this does have the intro and does have the chords, but the melody is different. It's an alto player, maybe Gigi Grice, maybe you can hear it, right? But the melody is slightly different.
Yeah.
But it becomes a little bit more, it coalesces the more he plays it. And what I know for sure is the earliest recording of Round Midnight that I know Monk recorded did not have the outro. I mean, as we know, that was Dizzy and Cootie. And then Monk started playing the outro, you know, and then you have other things. You know, you have Miles's arrangement and the break and all of that. And there's all these different kind of ways in which that tune has taken on such a life. And I love the idea of the reciprocal nature of, you know, you write this composition, Monk wrote this composition, Dizzy contributed something to the composition, which Monk then played himself. And I think that's beautiful. I love that idea. It's like how Coleman Hawkins, when he was older and he was in New York, and all the young musicians were just revered him, loved him, carried his groceries down the street for him, you know, loved this man, and because he influenced all of them. I mean, influence almost doesn't feel like the right word. I mean, he was their God. And but then he's going out and hearing, you know, Ornette's band. Yeah. And you know that has to be coming into some part of him, you know? And so there's just this beautiful sharing and reciprocity of sound and information that I think is really special. And as you said, you know, it happens to some degree, but I think it used to happen much more. And yeah, I think it's just important. I think that, you know, I am really inspired by the musicians of my generation and of all generations, but I am really inspired by my peers, of course. I mean, we're all influenced by our elders and teachers and mentors, and we're also influenced by our peers, our friends who are learning this music with us and who are playing and creating this music, you know, together. And so I think it was important for me to record some of these tunes and make a habit of doing this sort of thing. And me and Kayvon and Tyrone have been talking about, oh, you know, there's this person's tunes. We should play some of their music too, you know, and this person, that person. So, yeah, I just think it's a tradition that's important. It helps kind of keep the music in the ether, keeps it in the sphere of awareness. And it's fun. It's fun to play someone else's tune, you know, and have them hear it. And and in every case where I told the person, you know, because obviously I you know, have to do my due diligence and reach out and say, hey, you know, we've been playing your tune and I want to record it. Is that okay? I mean, 100% of the people I reached out to, it was met with, yes, they were like, Nicole, no way, you're a thief. Yeah, you're
go write your own songs.
Exactly. You're like, you're a charlatan. Cut it out. No, everyone was so cool and so gracious and excited about the fact that it was, you know. Yeah. And some of them forgot about they ever wrote the tune too. Ah, cool. Some of these tunes were never recorded by anyone, so it kind of resurrected some tunes that never got to kind of see the light of day.
Did you have sheets of their tunes, or did you transcribe them, or what was?
Yeah, we had charts.
Okay.
We had charts and you know, charts from sessions that we had played. Nice. Or things like that. Gigs we had played with certain people. Yeah. So yeah, there's some of those, but then there's also some of our tunes. There's you know, some more stuff from Tyrone on there. There's a couple tunes from me on there. Nice. There's really only 2 tunes, I think. I'm just thinking through. Yeah, there's really only 2 tunes that I would even classify as standards, but one of them is Bird Feathers by Charlie Parker,
Nice.
which is one of my favorite tunes. And even then we have kind of our own little thing that we do, arrangement thing that we do with it. And then there's this tune that Betty Carter sings that I can find almost no information about at all. It's a tune called Tell 'Em I Said Hello. And I looked up these composers and I cannot find anything about them or about the song. Nothing. So it's a total mystery to me, but it's a beautiful song. And so we recorded that too.
On which album is this?
An early one of hers, I think. Let's see, with Ray Bryant.
Oh yeah.
Social Call, maybe. I want to say it's Social Call. Yeah, Social Call.
Nice.
You know, because at first I thought maybe Ray Bryant wrote it, and then it was attributed to these 2 guys who, I can't find out any information. And I asked a couple of people
names?
that, man,
I'm sorry.
I don't remember. One of them is, I think, Jack Canning. And the other, I never remember.
Yeah.
Bill Hegner, Jake Canning, and Bill Hegner. I reached out to, I was like, man, if there's one person on the planet Earth alive who might know these people, who would it be? And I realized that the answer was Bill Charlap. And so I reached out to Bill. He didn't know either. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows if it's a ghostwriting situation where that's not really their names or what? Yeah. Part of me still wonders if it was just Ray Bryant, but then I wonder why this name wasn't used. I'm not sure. So it's kind of mysterious, but those 2 tunes are on there as well. But there's way more tunes. I think there's maybe 10 or 11, and they're shorter. So it's more different tunes, and almost all, kind of original focus. So it's going to have a really different kind of sound. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Same label?
Yeah. On
Okay.
Savant. Yeah.
And did you also record it at Rudy van Gelder's?
I did.
Oh, nice. I want to know, because also I just love the sound of this quartet, trio and quartet album so much. And can you paint a picture of how it is to record there and where you were standing and share your memories of recording there? Absolutely.
Well, I'll say off the bat that when I'm in there, I cannot think about it. I can't think of, when I'm in there, I'm kind of like, okay, great. Yeah, this is cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Don't freak out.
I'll deal with this later.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I try to just really focus on the task at hand, especially as when you're the leader of a session and you want to make sure you're organized. You want to make sure that you know how to use your time best, all this sort of thing. And you make sure everyone's taken care of. You're thinking about when people are going to eat lunch. You're thinking about all these things. And so actually I quite enjoyed putting my brain there because it can be daunting. Yeah. It can be daunting. And in the recording studio, the last thing you need is to feel afraid of anything. But especially to feel intimidated by the past. I don't think that services, music making in general, but particularly a recording session, which is already uniquely challenging and can feel, if you're not in the right headspace, can feel, stifling or uncomfortable or what have you. So, try not to think about it while I was there, but of course it's impossible not to. I mean, even just as you drive up to the building, you're like, you before you even walk in, you drive up to the building, you see the building, you're thinking about, okay, this is where Train took the Love Supreme album art. You look to the right at the trees, and you're like, that's where the Roy Haynes Out of the Afternoon album photo was taken, and all this sort of thing. And you walk in and all the albums are on the wall. The album cover of Plays is me sitting on the stairs there.
Yeah.
So, even the damn stairs, you're like, wow. Yeah, we joked that, we were joking that actually the thing that starstruck us the most was the bathroom.
Oh yeah, of course.
We were like, wow,
yeah.
How many great records were made because of this bathroom?
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
sure,
yeah. So, but it's, it is really incredible to be in there.
What's the bathroom like? Tell us.
Oh, it's very modest, very humble.
Yeah.
Small. Wood. Everything there. The building is well maintained wood.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels kind of like you're in a log cabin, and it's very strange too because the building is just off the side of not a highway, but kind of a highway in New Jersey. I mean, you're driving along, and there's just like, a corporate business headquarters here, a little strip mall here, a gas station. It looks like nothing. And then all of a sudden the driveway comes up and you go, oh, this is it. And you turn in, and it really feels like all of a sudden you're in another, it's like when Dorothy walks out, and everything's in color. It feels all of a sudden like you've gone somewhere very different. And, I mean, it's a beautiful room too. And the room sound, I mean, the natural reverb that you're getting from being in the room is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the microphones sound great. And they, they set up the mics. Maureen sets up the mics. It's very like hands off because it's the room. It's the sound. You don't need to do much. You just you just find a way to make it so you're able to capture as cleanly, as acoustically, as naturally as possible what is happening in the room. So it's really, a beautiful space to record. And I'm trying to remember what I did for Plays, but I know for this upcoming one, we didn't use headphones.
Yeah. All
in the same room, no headphones, which
close together, or how close were you together?
Kind of. I mean, Tyrone and I were pretty close to each other. Kayvon was a little further, just so that there isn't there's going to be, if we're all in one room, bleed, but just to minimize the amount of bleed. So he was a little further away. And then when Lester came in, he was pretty close to me. So I could hear him pretty well on that. But, the recording without headphones all in one room is probably, in a way, the most challenging way to record. But I feel if it can be done, and I understand that there are very specific limitations that would prevent certain albums or projects from being recorded in this fashion. And I completely understand that. But if it's possible, I think it's the best way to record. I think that not only does it do something for the actual recorded sound, but for me, it does something for my brain, for my ears.
Oh yeah, it does something to the dynamics of the band also. Like if everybody has cranked up their headphones super, and they have I need more drums and just a little bass, then all of the dynamics and natural interplay of the band on the dynamic spectrum totally gets lost.
Yeah, right, because you're not playing with the natural dynamics. You're manipulating the dynamics to your preferences based on what you're hearing in your headphones. Yeah. And when I do that, I always overplay. It's awful.
Yeah, me too.
It's so difficult not
and I'm
to.
And I'm not in control about my sound also.
Yeah. Do you over articulate? Because I feel like that's something that I've done in situations like that I'm really, have been working on doing less. But I feel like, I agree. It's like you over articulate. For me, sometimes I overblow. Sometimes I'm playing tense. And now obviously I just need to not do that because obviously there are going to probably be many recording sessions down the line where that's the situation, and you know, finding the best way to communicate what you want to communicate in that situation. I mean, that's just what a professional musician needs to do. But I mean, if you can do the no headphones all in one room, I feel like it's just different. And you're not only are you more attuned to what's happening,
it's
but
also
you're
like,
also,
when do we play with headphones?
yeah, right.
When? Like,
yeah,
we never play with, I mean, never. Only if we're in the studio.
Yes.
So we're so used to not play with headphones and to be in the room together and close, and you know, oh no, let's get closer on stage. Let's get a bit closer so we can actually hear, you know. And then we go into this laboratory to document the music that we're playing. And then we do all the things differently.
Yeah, it's like somebody hands you a pair of gloves.
Yeah.
And they're like, play with these.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, okay, I will, but this isn't how I play. This isn't what I'm used to playing, you know. Yeah. Totally. I 100% agree. And I think being in one room too and knowing you're recording, it does kind of give a little thing to it. I think there's a little like spark that's in there, you know, where it feels like you're just playing together. You know, it sounds acoustic. It feels like how you always play, but there is that knowledge of oh no, we are doing this. We are making this, this record. You know, actually a crazy story. When we were in the studio for this upcoming record, we were getting everything all set up, ready to go. And finally we're about to get started, and Maureen walks into the big room and she goes, okay, everybody ready? And right when she did that, the light bulb in the main room directly above her head exploded. Like it.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was very strange. It was like, well, I guess so.
Yeah.
You know, I guess,
now you have to play. Yeah.
You know, and it you know, there's, so I just was thinking about that, being in the big room. There's kind of that like spark of something, and then also being at Rudy's, there is that. I was like, man, I had just forgotten I was at Rudy Van Gelder's, and then a ghost had to come and break the light bulb. You know, like, come on, you know. So yeah, I mean, recording there, to get back to your question, it was just such a unique and cool experience that, you know, I hope everybody gets the opportunity to at least go to the studio and check it out. And, you know, it's just across the water. And yeah, it's
I'd love to go.
Yeah, it's a special place. And, you know, when I recorded there, we haven't needed the piano.
Yeah.
So we haven't even used the piano. The piano, I mean,
but isn't there also two pianos there? That's what I've heard. Like there's like the smaller one, like a Steinway B or something.
Yeah,
that
I
is
think
on
so.
Most of the earlier records.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's like a newer, bigger one. That's what I've heard, but I'm not sure.
I think you're probably right. It's funny, I can't even remember because we didn't. You know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I just remember seeing the piano when I first got there, and them being like, yeah, so this is the piano that's on this record. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk away.
Yeah.
I can't think about that now. But yeah, I mean, as a pianist, I mean, it would be incredible to go there and play that piano. You know, it's, you know, you really realize when you're there too, just how young the music is, in the sense that we are still connected in a very tactile way to the people who created the music, who shaped the music. I mean, we're playing the instruments they played. We are recording in the rooms they were recorded in. We are interacting with the music in a very physical way, in being in these spaces. And by having relationships with people that were there, you know, I mean, there are still people who are with us who played with Coleman Hawkins, who played with Bird. You know, those numbers are diminishing, but they're not gone. There is still that connection. And when you're in a space like that, when you're in a space like Rudy's or the Vanguard or something like that, you really, I think that's one of those things that people talk about when they talk about kind of like a presence to these places, is that for me, I kind of interpret part of that presence as just really feeling in connection with this thing that's so great. Yeah. And that feels so much bigger than any single one of us, you know.
Who are some of the elders that are still alive that you seek out?
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, in New York, well, I will answer that question, but your question made me think of an interesting quote that Peter Washington told me, because, you know, for my generation and younger generations, part of what makes New York so, you know, for example, so special is how many of the great elders are here that we can talk to, you know, and be around and stuff. And Peter Washington once told me, he was like, yeah, New York is great for that. He goes, but you know what else really makes it great is the young people who are here to learn this music. I thought that was really interesting that he said that. So that was just something that I just thought about when you asked me that. But for me, it's you know, I mean, you know, thinking back, you know, chronologically to my time that I've been here, and actually even before coming here, back in my hometown in Portland, you know, there were mentors of mine that both were direct mentors of mine and also direct mentors of my direct mentors, which feels like a really important relationship too. Yeah. You know, before I was even alive in Portland, the great bassist Leroy Vinegar was there, infusing the scene. Andrew Hill was teaching at the college there. He taught at Portland State University for some time. A great drummer, great drummer and composer Lawrence Williams was there. And so there was this kind of energy. There were other people too. Eddie Harris spent a lot of time in Portland. I had a lot of mentors. I got to play with Eddie, and so, you know, thinking of like the family tree of elder mentors, you know, there's that. My first, you know, kind of teacher in this music is a drummer named Mel Brown, who played in the Motown house band and played with the Temptations and played with a bunch of people, recorded with, you know, Stevie and a bunch of incredible people, Diana Ross, but also has the warmest, most beautiful swing beat ever. And he used to play 5 nights a week at this club in Portland called Jimmy Mac's, and I would go all the time. And it was a class. It was very old school. It was like you would go for like 2 years every week with your horn at your feet, you know, never pull it out until one day they'll be like, come up and play. So that sort of thing. There was a great singer that I worked with back in Portland named Ural Thomas, who's like a fountain of youth. He's in his 80s. He's a soul singer, blues singer, and he is incredible. And I worked with him for a while, for some years, and really, really loved that. And then moving to New York, you know, I first moved out here and went to William Patterson University, mostly because of who was teaching there. I mean, Mulgrew Miller and Harold Mayburn were teaching there when I was there, as well as the great saxophonist Rich Perry, who I loved and still love. I just heard him the other night for the first time in a while, and it just made my heart so happy, you know. And those guys really were one of the biggest reasons that I went to that school and to be around them.
Tell me about studying with Mulgrew.
Yeah, wow, man. He was one of the truly kindest people I've ever met. So warm, so generous with his time.
What were the things that you were dying to ask him?
You know, at the time, whenever we would ask him sometimes about gigs that he played, people he played with, you know, and sometimes we would ask him about how to approach certain musical situations and things like that. And he had this way of answering that was so simple but clear. You know, he didn't just the way he said it, he had this way of communicating the idea so simply and effectively. And sometimes he would say, well, you know, I don't remember. And that was that. But, you know, a lot of the times if we would ask about a musical situation, for example, he would just say, well, you know, I might think of it something like this, and sit down at the piano to show us and kind of talk us through what he might be thinking about. I remember there was one time in particular where I wasn't in this group, but I happened to be there for some reason watching the rehearsal or something. I don't know why I was there. Well, I was there to witness this, I guess, you know, but yeah, it was an Ornette Coleman ensemble, and they were talking about playing the blues without playing a blues, you know, playing the sound, the feeling of the blues without, you know, necessarily playing what we understood as being the blues form, which now, you know, I can look back. I was quite a bit younger. Now I can look back and you know, understand how, you know, the blues form is very malleable, and historically has not just been this, and this, right? It's something that got kind of codified into this specific thing, and that there's a lot of different structures of what it could mean to play the blues, and in some cases, and there's a lot more freer ways in which that could happen. But, you know, we were 19 and we didn't know. And so someone asked Mulgrew, you know, how would you approach this sort of situation? And he thought about it for a second, and, you know, he realized I feel like he would assess, he would say, well, what's the best thing for me to do? Explain it or show them? And he would make that decision and he would do it. Yeah. So in this case, he said, well, let me show you. And he sat down, and what he played was just one of the most incredible things I've ever heard in my life. And it was just, you know, a random day at the school.
Yeah.
That's a memory that stands out. That's really fond. But also he would just chat with us. I mean, he lived far away from the school too. He lived in Easton, PA, which was a drive. And he was still there multiple days a week. And if we chatted with him, he would stay and talk to us in the hallway for as long as felt good to everybody. You really got the sense that he really wanted all of us, he really wanted to see all of us be okay, you know, as people, but also, you know, to be able to evolve as musicians too, and get the information we needed. I mean, he wasn't withholding in any way. Anything that he could share, he did share. You know, it was really interesting too, because when I was there, he had a stroke, and he could only play with one hand for a while. And we would hear him every day shedding in his office with the other hand, like slow scales, slow practicing, really slow practicing every day. Because I guess he was at the school and he had a piano in his office, and it was a long drive from home. So he would just be at the school doing that if he had to be at the school. And I mean, we would just stand outside the office and listen. And it was one of the most inspiring things. I mean, he really led by example a lot, you know. Sometimes Wingspan would rehearse at the school. We would like spy on that a little bit. And really his presence was just so beautiful and made us all sit up a little straighter, you know.
Did he show you tunes?
Yeah, there was a couple times where I had him as my teacher for just a standards ensemble, you know, because we were like, well, you know, we would love to deal with this with Mulgrew, you know. And I don't remember him specifically bringing in tunes for us, but I do remember him walking us through several different ways to approach moving through a tune, you know, different harmonies and things like that. One time, me and my friend, we thought we were slick. We were like, let's put together a group, an ensemble, and we'll ask him to you know, lead it. And we didn't ask a piano player to be in the group. We did, you know, bass, drums, guitar, and saxophone. And we thought we were slick. We were like, if there's no piano player, Mulgrew's going to just sit down and show us stuff, you know. And he did.
Nice.
All the time. You know, he, like I said, he was just generous in that way. Mm-hmm. He just wanted to help. So that was really special. I really treasure that time. In fact, the last time,
sorry, do you remember a specific song where he showed you a couple of different ways to look at the harmony or stuff?
I remember the first thing that comes out, comes to mind is just, I remember we were doing Embraceable You, and I think I remember feeling like I didn't fully understand the sound of the second bar at that age, you know, and the flat 3 diminished was tricky to me, kind of. It's kind of going back to our earlier conversation a little bit, where I was like, well, I know what I could play, but I feel like I can't make it feel like it's flowing. I can't make it feel any other way than just this way that I'm playing it, you know? And so I just remember him sitting down and, you know, he didn't show us necessarily harmonically different ways to approach it, but he played about 10 different melodies, improvised melodies through the first like 2.5 bars, just so we could hear different ways to navigate through those first couple of bars, and each one as beautiful as the next, you know? So that really stands out to me.
Nice.
You know, again, a great example of, well, how would I do this? Instead of being like, well, this note and blah, blah. He's just like, here's one way. Here's another way. And, you know, Rich Perry was like that too as a saxophone teacher. He was very similar, where I would say, Rich, you know, you have just such a beautiful harmonic concept and sound and all this, you know, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I don't know, you know, oh, I don't know. And he would just play, and I would just stand right in front of the bell of his horn and just, you know, look at his hands and listen to his sound and try to figure it out and play it back with him. And, you know, so a lot of just very direct transference of information and of sound.
Yeah. Did he also play piano for you? Comp for you?
Mulgrew?
No. Rich.
Oh, Rich? No. You know what he would do? He had an iPod of he would put on an Aebersold.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We would play Aebersolds together.
Yeah.
It was great. He would hook it up to his little boombox.
Yeah.
And we would play Aebersolds.
Wow.
It was honestly super fun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Super, super, super fun. The best I've ever heard an Aebersold sound was when Rich Perry was playing over it. We would do the all bird one.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, you know, because of the rhythm section. And, you know, it's funny because I feel like Barry Harris was the same way. As you know, it was a direct transference of information. I mean, you know, I'm sure the online classes were very similar, but the in-person classes would be, you know, you would show up, you would sit down, you'd get your instrument out, and he'd be like, you know, G major 7, start on the 3, up to the 6, back down to the 5, half step in between 6 and 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Yeah. And he would craft a solo over some standard or some, you know, bebop tune just over the course of the class, and that's exactly how he would do it. Or he'd sing, you know. He would sing the line and have you play it. I mean, just direct transference, you know. I know that you know, I certainly didn't study with him, but I've heard a lot of stories about Joe Henderson doing the same thing. He would feed you a line, one note at a time, and you would learn the line. You weren't allowed to write it down. You weren't allowed to record it, and you had to learn it, memorize it, and come back. And what I've heard is that it wasn't like he gave everyone the same line.
Ah, nice.
He had different lines for all his students, and he would remember the line he gave you when you came back, and then he would give you more to add on to that.
Wow.
You know, and so I think there's something to that not only has been really inspirational for me as a you know, perennial student, but as a teacher. You know, I've been doing a lot of teaching. I've been teaching the last couple of years at Manhattan School of Music, and I'm really inspired being there by just the level of the faculty and of the students, and it makes me want to be a better teacher. And I think back to my teachers and think about, you know, what did they do with me? What, you know, how exactly were they most effective in the way that they were able to communicate?
When does an information really sink in? And when,
right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with my students, you know, something that we do a lot too is we'll listen together to stuff. We do a lot of listening. Yeah. To be like, you know, of course, it's one of the best things. And I had other teachers that would do this with me too. And so, just thinking about these ways of transference from these people and, you know, thinking about others, right? There are people who were kind of explicit teachers of mine, as I've mentioned, right? A lot of these guys I'm talking about were teachers of mine. Then there's other people, like Victor Lewis, who I have been fortunate to spend some time around in my time in New York and play with a bit. And
I saw a couple of videos of you guys together.
Yeah.
Some of Jesse's organized Wayne tributes and stuff.
Yeah. Just being around him and his energy and his energy for the music and the way that he shapes the music, the way that he constructs things and his spirit. And, you know, and he tells stories too. He's a great storyteller, which is not a surprise based on the way that he plays, you know? Oh, yeah. And he's that type where I won't necessarily, you know, you asked earlier, what kind of questions did you ask Mulgrew? And I do ask people questions, and I do like to try to have measured questions, you know, for people that I want to learn from. But then sometimes with certain people, I don't want to ask them anything because I know that they'll offer it to me if they feel like it. Do you know what I mean? Like with Victor, I've never been like, what was it like to play with Woody Shaw? Because sometimes he might just be like, you know, one time with Woody. And it's interesting that way too, because you always, in that moment, there's always a reason they decided to bring that story up. Yeah. And so it's kind of more interesting that way to hear not just the story, but why you think it might have come up in relation to the current moment, I think is cool. And so I've learned a lot from just being around him. And the bassist Gene Perla, he was really the first person to give me work when I got to New York. He was the first guy to call me for stuff and give me some opportunities. And again, you know, it's their energy is unbelievable. I mean, sometimes I'm almost 34, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, you know, I don't feel so good today. I'm feeling, you know, and then I see these guys who are more than twice my age, and I'm like, what am I doing? Yeah, you know, the attitude and the energy and the spirit and the committed nature of these things is so deep. You know, Johnny O'Neill, you know, Al Foster.
When
Billy
did you
Hart.
get to play with Al?
I played once with Al, up at a festival in Hartford, Connecticut. It was a quartet, Adam Birnbaum, David Wong, me, and Al, and I think Chris Potter was unavailable, and they were looking for a tenor player, and I literally happened to be holding my phone doing something when a message came in. And so I wrote back within, I don't know, 2.5 seconds. Yes. Yeah. And they were like, oh, that was That was fast, you know? So I got to play with him up at this festival and hang with him a little bit. You know, one of my favorite Al moments is actually, we had met at Smoke Jazz Club before I played this gig with him, a couple of years before I played this gig with him, actually, because at Smoke on Sunday nights, they used to have this thing where a younger band would play just one set to kind of wrap up the week, right? Because at least pre-pandemic, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be the run for a band that was there. Friday, Saturday, I think were 3 sets. And the other days might have been just 2 sets. And so on Sunday, after the last set of the run, and really right after, like 15 minutes after, short turnaround, a young band would come up and play. And for a while, it would be a residency. You would do it for a couple months, and then it would rotate out and be another band. And that was my first kind of larger platform weekly gig in the city. And the first week I did it, I walk in, I realize, oh, this band just stopped playing, you know? And it was a Bill Charlap trio. And I was like, well, hopefully they leave, you know? Like, well, hopefully they leave before we start playing, you know? And I get up there and I set up, and the guy's doing the announcements, and I look, and all 3 of them are sitting at the bar. And Bill Charlap also is sitting, and Renee is sitting there too. And I was like, oh my God. And I had to just play. And this happened every week for a couple months. And the next week after that was Al and Nicholas Payton and David Hazeltine, and like it was another pretty heavy band led by Al. And it was the same thing. I was like, well, hopefully they leave. They did not. And afterwards we were hanging, and they stayed for a while, you know, they stayed and hung, and Al actually stayed till the end of our set and hung with us. And I don't remember if I explicitly, I don't think I would have been like, what was it like to play with Joe Henderson? You know, but I might have asked, the conversation might have come around to talking about Joe. I love Joe, you know, and I love that trio. Of course. And so, of course, I want to know about that. And he would be like, oh, yeah, I love Joe. But you know who I really love? Sonny Rollins. He would not stop talking about Sonny Rollins. He was just going on about how much he loved this guy personally, playing with him, you know, everything. And then at that moment, Without a Song came on the Smoke house music on the speakers, and those first few notes, it goes ba-da-ba-ba, and right at that downbeat, Al was like, he put his hands on his heart, and he was like, and he sang every note Sonny played, but he didn't just sing it. He like was it. He embodied it. He was like dancing with it. He was miming with it. He was using his hands like he was having a conversation with it. And I mean, we were just watching him like floored, you know? And it was such a sweet moment that we were kind of like all chuckling a little bit, including Al, you know, certainly not laughing at him, but it was like, there was just such a childlike purity of spirit that was happening, and we all felt it, and it just compelled us all to want to giggle and smile, and you felt that sort of energy, like we were you know, children dancing and singing or something, or you know, you saw Al in that moment as being like a timeless person, as being
sweet,
a child but not a child, you know. It was like you just saw him. It was, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it was really beautiful, and so that was a really special moment too.
I read this book about Nadia Boulanger, the great teacher.
Yeah,
and she talked about being an old woman. She talked about age, And she was like, yeah, I'm 90, but I'm also 5.
Yeah.
And I'm also 19.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not I'm not that old, but I feel that I can still relate to some earlier ages, and I feel that aspect of myself in that, or especially when I listen to something like The Bridge without a song, I can tap into finding that CD in the shop and putting it on, and and listening to it. I'm transported. So I can relate to that Al story a lot through the Nadia Boulanger story as well. Like, we're all ages at once.
Yes, and you saying that made me think of a couple of things. In terms of putting on the music, I mean, I remember so vividly when I first heard the music when I was a kid. I mean, it's so clear in my mind that it's like it happened yesterday. I mean, it's my dad, who isn't a musician, he just was checking out the music. He had a friend who was really into the music, and my dad, who had never listened to jazz in his life when I was born, asked his friend, hey, I kind of want to like check out this music. Do you have any recommendations? Which is funny because recently, like in the last year, I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, what compelled you? You know what I mean? You went your whole life without ever checking out jazz. Like, what, do you remember what it was that made you want to start checking it out? And he goes, no, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It was just a thing, and he asked his friend for some recommendations, and thank God his friend
showed the right stuff. Yeah.
Because, there's many directions.
Yeah.
That could, that question could be taken. And he gave my dad Sonny and Miles and Train.
Yeah.
And just the stuff that's still my favorite, stuff. And I just so clearly remember hearing Cannonball Adderley's Something Else as a kid, and being, transfixed by what I was hearing and feeling old. Like somehow
you're hanging with the grown-ups.
Yeah, or like somehow that thing that you're talking about, like almost the opposite of Nadia Boulanger when she's old saying I'm also 5. It was like, I remember having this weird feeling that I couldn't really describe at the time, but I now realize is kind of similar, where I felt big and small and old and young all at the same time. And I just like, and I never stopped following that, basically. I mean, that's it. Yeah. You're taken over by that feeling. But it was funny. The other thing I was thinking about is just the other day I was playing a gig and I was on stage and someone else was playing. And I don't know why I thought this. It was such a weird thought to pop into my head. It had no relationship really to anything that was going on, but I was listening and all of a sudden I was like, I am the same person I have always been.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I am the same person. Like I had this thing. Do you know what I mean? Where I was like, I'm not, but I am. I feel the same.
Yeah.
in a weird way. And it was just such a random time for it to occur. But actually, I guess now that we're talking about this, I guess it's not that surprising that, given the context of what we're saying, that it would happen while, I was playing music or engaged in music making or.
Yeah. You were again in the zone where time stops.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when time stops, you realize that there's like a continuum.
Yeah.
And a connection.
Yeah, for sure. And some strange kind of thoughts about, you and what you feel like compared to what you, all that sort of stuff, the persona, the ego, all of that sort of, grappling that we do throughout the course of our lives, like to understand those things in relation to each other. It's like all of a sudden those things feel kind of like both very real and present and together and connected, and also like like they have disappeared for a second all at the same time. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, some things we're glad that they're gone in our playing, maybe, and in our lives.
Yeah.
Some things we're happy that they're now there, or some things are constant boss fights that we're having to fight.
Yes, that's for sure.
I'm obsessed with that idea, like how, let's say you show the new album to Nicole from 10 years ago. What do you think?
Wow,
she would say?
Thought. It's a really interesting thought.
Because you are the same,
right? But we are the same. But
yeah, exactly.
But
is she like, yeah, that's it, or is she like, you know?
It's such an interesting thing to think about. I've never thought about that, to be very honest with you. I've thought about what 10 years ago Nicole would say to life circumstance or things like that, but I've never thought about it in relation to the music I am making now. That's a very interesting idea. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. That's I mean, I think I would like it for sure. I mean, I've been pretty consistent in what I've liked, and not to say that there isn't always room for new but that is consistent too. I've always been like, when I heard Dolphy and Ornette when I was a kid, and I didn't think it was weird or anything. I liked it. I thought it was cool. And I still like them. And so I think obviously I know much more music than I did 10 years ago. So there's much more things that I like than 10 years ago, but I'm still listening to the same records I listened to, even 20, 30 years ago.
But certain obsessions, for me at least, also belong to a certain age, or
for sure.
Not age, but like time period in my life. I remember like having this incredible Branford Marsalis, Kenny Kirkland phase, which was so important to me. But it also belongs to a certain time in my life where certain records from that period of, right until the mid 90s or stuff, stuff like that, was like all I would listen to.
I definitely have things like that, but within the context of this music, I have revisited those things and not felt too much like they were tied to the time. I have felt like that more with other kinds of music, where I listen to it. There's certain things I can't listen to now.
Yeah, me
because
too.
it reminds me of not just a time, but a certain headspace maybe I was in that I don't want to relate to, or can't relate to anymore. I think with this music, I think something that has been one of the things I love about it so much is that I can, revisit whatever I like at such different times in my life and always get something interesting out of it or something different out of it. Or, I remember a friend of mine, we used to talk about like our relationship to the album Kind of Blue, because you hear that really young. And when you're young, you go, wow, this is so cool, and then you get a little older and you're studying the music a little bit more, and you kind of go like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. I see what, okay, I kind of hear, this thing's happening, or, you start to the things that you're looking at with maybe an analytical mind, you're seeing it from that perspective. But then you come through that too, and you go back to listening to it and being like, wow, this is cool.
Holy shit, they're doing it. Yeah.
It's like, it's the same thing as before, but I feel you. I've definitely had phases where certain music really meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
But whenever I've gone back and listened to it, I still like it.
No.
You know?
Maybe that was a bad example for me, because whenever I listen to Branford or Kenny, I love it, you know.
No, of course.
But the time when I first obsessed about it is like it's set in stone in my journey as a
what
musician,
you're saying.
you know.
When you first hear it.
So
yes,
and also
okay, absolutely.
And then it just belongs to that time in my life. And when I listen, I'm transported back to that time in my life. I can see new things. I can, learn new tunes. I can appreciate new things because I know more.
Yeah.
But also I'm 18.
Yes, I feel you. I'm totally with you. That makes a lot of sense. I have some very specific times that make me think of that. I'm thinking about when I was in high school, and actually this is kind of, you might find this kind of funny. So, I heard the music when I was really young, and I always wanted to play an instrument, and I specifically really wanted to play the saxophone. I also was kind of interested, funnily enough, in bass, upright bass, and drums.
Yeah.
And when I was in middle school, I tried both of those instruments too. The bass, I was like, this is too big. I can't play this.
Yeah.
And then the saxophone, I loved it, and so I ended up, that just felt so right to me. So I ended up playing it. But, I didn't have any context for when this music was made.
Yeah.
Or the fact that it is still being made.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I just put it in a category that all of my dad's music was in my head, which was old
music. Yeah. Sure.
Old music that's not being made anymore.
Yeah.
Classic rock, classic jazz. Like they were the same. They were something of their time.
Yeah.
And that's all I ever thought it was.
In black and white.
Yes, straight up. Absolutely. On the turntable. That's it. And so when I was in jazz band in school, I thought we were just like learning classical music. We were just learning that music. And then I'll never forget, in high school, I went to this thing that was being put on in Portland by Berklee College of Music. It was some Berklee outreach event, and they were honoring some people from the Portland jazz community, and they were doing a bunch of stuff, performances, all that sort of thing. And so I went to that when I was a sophomore in high school. And at this thing, because this is where I kind of learned that Berklee existed and that you could go to school for this. That was a brand new concept to me. I was shocked to hear that. But what was the most shocking thing is, at this event, there was a group of high school students, kids my age, from the greater Portland metropolitan area, playing in a big band. It was one of those kind of like community all-star bands that do all those like competitions and things like that. And I was completely unaware that this was going on at all. So I see this band, and it's people my age ripping, playing the music, and like dealing with language, with a sound, and it changed everything for me.
Yeah.
And so I ended up auditioning for that band. I was so sad. I could not play anything, but there was an opening, and he let me in because I, seemed to want to be a part of it, for real. And I did. So, he let me join, and so all these people became my friends, and they started showing me music. And that's how I became aware of, anybody now.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know who Chris Potter was. I didn't know who Branford was. I didn't know who Joshua Redman was. I didn't know who any of these people were. And my friends in high school started showing me this music, and it changed everything. And so, there's certain people I associate with that time. And then there's certain music I associate with going to college, and the same thing happening on a different scale, or just people are showing each other music. I know what you mean. I'll never forget the first time I heard Sunship when I was in college. Wow. Man, that's such a distinct memory to me. Like you're talking about, it transports me not only to a time, but I see where I was. Yeah. Almost in like a out of body way, I can like see, almost like looking into the practice room where I was, you know, where my friend showed me that for the first time. And I was just sitting there like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
How does this exist? You know?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can tap into jazz teeny thoughts of mine still. There's this one thought I would go to.
Teeny thoughts.
Yeah, I would go to this jam session always on Mondays, and then there were like old cats playing, but also younger people, like students, and they would be so much more advanced than I was, and I was like super green. Although I grew up listening to this music, but I just couldn't play, you know.
Yeah.
But just the thought of seeing, I remember this thought of seeing somebody who would wear the clothes that would be in fashion in that time, you know, 2002. I just remember like vividly those Adidas, you know, things that you could zip up until here in black with the stripes, and then people wearing sneakers and then playing a killer solo with language on the guitar. And I was like, oh, you can wear this and still play this music. Like people can look cool now playing this music but still have all this like weird teenage thoughts. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I think that's great. I can kind of tap into some of that too. The early thoughts, or you know what, to be honest, even like sometimes I'll think about what I was thinking about a year ago and be like, wow, you know,
yeah, that
feels like you know, some time ago. That feels like a couple iterations ago, you know. It's really interesting, and it just makes you wonder, you know. This is something that I talk about with my students a lot, you know. I mean, this is a lifelong thing, which doesn't mean not to have a sense of urgency at all, but what it means is that, you know, there is no possible way to conceive what you or the world is going to be like in X years, right? And there's nothing you can do to fast track that.
Yeah.
Experience is one of the only things that truly can't be replicated, falsified, replaced, fabricated in any conceivable way. Some people are given experiences, and when I say experience, I mean life experience. I mean longevity of life experience, because certainly there are experiences that some people can have that others do not have. That is true.
Yeah.
But in terms of duration of life, you can't do anything but wait, but live it, you know.
There are no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
There are no shortcuts. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these moments come up quite often in teaching, right? Yeah, we can talk about this some more, but actually we just have to, you have to do it. You have to start doing it.
You know, it's funny because my teachers used to say to me, as I'm sure they said to you growing up, whenever I asked my teachers for feedback and they said this sentence to me, it was the most infuriating thing they could have possibly said to me. You know, the sentence is, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I was like, man, don't tell me that. That's so messed up, you know, like, no, give me something, you know. And it's funny because, of course, now I'm a teacher, and I have said a couple of times to some students, they'll say, you know, is there something I should be doing differently or whatever? And I'll say, you know, I cannot believe that I am about to say this right now.
Here it comes.
Here it comes. Here, you know, life has a funny way, but keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to still tell myself that, you know.
What are you doing right now?
On the horn. What am I working on?
Yeah.
Time and rhythm.
How?
Couple ways. One is definitely that thing we talked about earlier about, I'm really interested in the structure of phrases within the bar, within what we're assuming to be, you know, initially at least 4 beats within a measure, right? And I've been working on being able to start a phrase or end a phrase in any part of that measure of 4. And kind of like what we talked about earlier with the whole tone stuff, there are certain parts of the measure that feel really natural to do that with, and certain parts that feel really unnatural to do that with. And so then it becomes a matter of finding a way to hear that part and finding a way to not make it feel clunky and to make it feel natural and make it feel part of the thing that you're naturally hearing. For me, it's much more, it's an execution thing, but it really is an ear thing. That's been a big thing that I've been working on. I also have been trying to really deal with my eighth notes with the time. I kind of had a series of little revelations lately because I'm like a fake drummer. I'm I'm not a good drummer, but I've been playing along to records for years because, even since I was a kid, I was kind of choosing between saxophones and drums and I chose the horn, but I always was around drums in some capacity, I've lived with a billion drummers as roommates, and many of my close friends are drummers, and I love drums and I love drummers, and I spend, of course. And I've spent a lot of time lately being the last couple of years, really trying to understand the different drummers that I love and their feel and their beat, and trying to actually, do it. Obviously that takes a lifetime of work, but what I mean is that trying to find a way to understand how they're doing it. Obviously not that means I'm going to be able to, but by talking to friends of mine and saying, how is this person getting this particular sound? Where are they placing the skip beat in terms of the relationship to the quarter note? Like some people, if this is beat, how do you see it? If this is beat 1 and this is beat 2, there's some people who it's here.
Yeah.
If they're like Jimmy Cobb or something, There's some people who it's closer to here. I'm thinking maybe more Elvin or something like that. Then there's like here, straight down the middle, and all sorts of variances. And then there's articulation. Are they varying the dynamic level of each note that they play? Are they accenting any part of it, or is it all perfectly even? All that sort of thing is what I mean by understanding how to do it, understanding just what the ride cymbal approach is for each person and how they might be getting that feel and that sound. Yeah. And then I realized that it's the same on the horn. Yeah. And with just slightly different language. It's what's happening with the breath between notes, what's happening with the articulation, slightly different ways of talking about it technically, but the same idea, right? And I've just been thinking about my articulation and my skip beat, so to speak. And a couple weeks ago, I was playing drums, and I was switching between that and the horn. And I realized that the problem I had on drums was the same problem I had on the horn. Which was that it wasn't the placement of my note that I didn't like. It was really, well, maybe a little bit the placement, but the big issue was the way in which I was accenting the skip beat or the upbeat or articulating it. Yeah. I realized that by doing that, it gave it kind of a jumpier feeling than what I wanted. It was like I was trying to swing. And when I, and then I started playing again on both instruments really evenly, trying to just play extremely evenly, not trying to swing
Yeah.
and not trying to accent anything, keeping the placement pretty close to the same place that I'm naturally hearing it, but just not making a show of it.
Yeah.
You know, not making a spectacle of the upbeat.
Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes to the way in which I was. And, you know, there's a way in which it could be over exaggerated in my own head how much I was doing this, but still regardless,
your biggest critic.
It almost doesn't matter.
It's
exactly.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah,
it totally reminds me of this video that I used to like from Gelder teaching, and
yes,
there was he had this fisherman vest on.
Yeah, I know this video.
Yes, and he tells the student, it's like, do you think you can swing?
Yeah.
And the student goes, yeah, yes. And and he goes like, and then he goes, and then stop trying to swing. If you can do it, just do it. Don't think about it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's funny because it's like, these are things that I've known about for some time, but sometimes you think you're doing something and you're not. Yeah. Or sometimes something needs a lot of time for you to actually understand what's being said. Yeah. And, you know, it's possible that, you know, maybe a couple of years ago I did the same thing where I was like, my stuff's not even, I got to fix it. Yeah. And then maybe I thought I fixed it. And then now I'm hearing more and realizing I have a lot more work to do with it. Yeah. That could be part of it too, you know? And so, you know, to get back to what I'm working on the horn, I'm trying to, lately I've been putting on my metronome slow, you know, 40, 50 feels like a good, because 50 is a weird in between tempo. And I have that be 1 and 3. And I just play even eighth notes with no tongue articulation, just super even, slow notes. Both stream of consciousness, over tunes, over progressions, not over tunes, not over progression, whatever. You know, the content almost doesn't matter. Just following my ear and just focusing on making everything really, really even. That's been a bulk of what I've been doing lately, just trying to get it feeling good, just trying to get it feeling like what I would want my ride cymbal feel to be if I could actually play the drums, you know? Yeah, that's cool. You know, and just trying to really iron that out, you know? And then besides that, also just, you know, just continuing working on some meter stuff, you know, trying to still get better at odd meters and you know, and different subdivisions of a measure. There's something that I'll do where I'll put a metronome on a even slower beat, 30 or something, and play, you know, 1 note per beat, 2 notes per beat, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 12. Nice. And I try to do that over a tune. And I've basically just been doing it over All the Things You Are for like 2 years. I really haven't done it over any other tune. I probably should at this point, but that's hard enough, especially when you start getting into groupings of 11 and stuff, and trying to be able to hear, for there to be no latency in between going from 6 to 7. You really can hear 6, that sort of thing. So honestly, a lot of time stuff, because you know, one goal that I really have, you know, probably because I love the drums so much, is, you know, I think about like listening to different records, and specifically I think about this with the Sonny at the Vanguard record, where I think about, man, it sound like, imagine how fun it must have been to play, like, for them to play with each other. And my dear friend, I always play along to that record, because it's so much fun to play with them. You know, and to be in that zone. Man, it's the best. And I remember my dear friend who you did a great interview with, Savannah Harris. Oh yeah. We were talking one day and she said something about that. She goes, man, I can't imagine what it would have been like to play time with Sonny Rollins. Oh yeah. She's like, that must have been so fun, you know? And, you know, I've had a goal of, I want to be a horn player that drummers like playing with.
Yeah.
That's a goal
Yeah.
of mine. And so, you know, and when I really sat and thought about it, I was like, what do drummers work on?
Yeah.
Maybe I should work on some of that stuff too. So I've been asking a lot of my drummer friends for stuff they shed and finding a way to shed it on the instrument. For my last week of classes, which actually yesterday I finished for the school year at Manhattan School of Music. But for my improv class, I teach a sophomore improv class, and for their final this semester, they had to transcribe a drum solo and put notes to it.
Nice.
And the notes could be any notes. I mean, it was completely open-ended. I said, if you want to write yourself a technical exercise, go for it. If you want to write a contrafact or a tune, go for it. You want to compose a solo, go for it. Whatever the hell you want to do. Just has to be you playing along with this drum solo, you know?
What did they choose?
Oh, man.
Oh, which
cool
solo was
stuff. Such cool stuff. They chose.
Oh, okay. So it was different solos.
It was. And it was funny because in the last class, I was talking to a couple of them, and we had the idea of like, maybe in the future sometime I could give everybody the same solo and see what people come up with.
Yeah.
That could be really interesting. I didn't even think about that, but I had them choose. And they gave it to me early in the semester, so they couldn't switch. You know, they had to really be committed to what they chose. They chose the coolest stuff. Oh man. There was some Max on there. There was some Elvin. There were a couple Elvins. One of my students did the intro, Elvin's intro on Pursuance, which I couldn't believe.
Wow.
There was some Ed Blackwell on there, which was really, really cool to see. One of my students did a Tyshawn solo, like a solo transcription, and composed something over it, so it sounded like it was a duo drum saxophone composition, which was really cool. Some Art Blakey, bass player, did Elvin comping on oh man, I feel bad because I actually don't remember which tune it was, but it was on Motion. It was on the Lee Konitz Motion, and it was him comping behind Sunny Dallas Walking.
Oh, beautiful.
And it was really cool because he assigned, which was really smart. I was wondering if any of my students were going to do this, but I guess if any one of them would, it makes the most sense on the bass. He assigned each open string to one of the actual drums.
Nice. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And would play the open string that corresponded to that drum in time. And it sounded like Jimmy Garrison.
Yeah.
I was like, man. And then I told him, I was like, can you play the same? Can you walk, but put those things in your walking lines? Like put those same rhythms. And he did. And I was like,
that's it.
Jimmy, there it is.
There's the shortcut.
Jimmy.
There's
there
one
it is.
shortcut.
Yeah. So maybe there are shortcuts. And maybe he found one. He found the only one there is. You know? Yeah. But that was really inspiring. And so, you know, now I want to do, you know, there's a summer project for me, you know, and there's so many that I would want to do. But the one and one of them asked, they're like, well, if you had to do one, you know, right now, you know, what solo might you pick? And I was thinking about, I mean, there's so many that it was hard to choose, but for whatever reason, the first one that came to mind was the trades on that McCoy record where they play Inner Glimpse. What's that record called? It's like 4x4 is like a Freddie is on it and Al Foster is playing, and they play Inner Glimpse. You know this one?
I don't know this one.
Oh man.
From the 70s or something? Something
like that. Yeah, I think so. Oh, this is great. This, man. Let me just pull up. Yeah, quartets 4x4. So there's different quartets on the record.
Okay, I see.
And I think this particular one is, you know, this particular one I think is Cecil McBee and Al and McCoy and Freddie and
nice.
They play Inner Glimpse, and the drum trades at the end
are great. Cool. I'll check it out.
really cool. And I've thought about doing those. So, yeah, just a lot of the rhythm, mostly rhythm. It's what I've been practicing.
Nice.
Yeah.
When you were talking about what you did with different parts of the beat in the bar, and also with all the things you are, I had this crazy thought. Do you think, what would all the things you are think about all the things that we've done to this piece?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, man, I know. You know, I think
when I try something new, I also use that song. Everybody uses that song.
Everybody uses that song.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, you know, depending on the composer, there's a way in which they could be like, "What have you done?"
Yeah.
But there's also a way in which they could have been like, "Oh,
it's also
I didn't
flattering.
know you guys liked this song so much."
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you never know what people are going to latch onto of yours. Mm-hmm. You never know what people are going to like the most. That's something I'm starting to realize. I mean, my body of work is not huge by any stretch of the imagination. But even within the small body of work that I've started building, there's things that people gravitate to that are, you know, I'm like, oh, that's interesting that you like that. Or tunes that I might play live that people will be like, I really liked this thing in particular. So I can only imagine with somebody with a prolific output of stuff, it must be really interesting to see what people tend to really like. Or, you know, there's a lot of situations in which the most popular song by a certain musician, for example, they'll be like, I don't even think that was our best one. Yeah. I'm surprised that one is the one that got famous or that made us famous, you know? So it's interesting. It's really kind of shows you that in a way, it's not really up to you. It's you put it out and that's it. Yeah. And how it's received and what happens to it is
out of your hands.
It's out of your hands. It's up to the world. Yeah. You know?
So one more month until you have really given away the new record.
It comes out in a month, and it'll be there. Yeah. But, you know, I feel with this one, I feel like it's in a way, I don't know what the right word is, but I'm really excited for people to hear it. I think it's maybe the most, so far, maybe the most like holistic depiction of my musical personality and interests.
Nice.
I think it's a fuller snapshot than anything I've put out before. And I also think that the way that Tyrone and Kayvon play on it is just incredible. And, you know, the group language that we've been working on developing is on this more and more, you know, coming into being and coming into fruition and evolving in these different ways. And so I'm really excited about it, you know, and I think it had you know, like I said, there were some things that happened, some funny, unexpected things that happened that made it, you know, feel like there was, you know, something there that was cool. Like, there was the light bulb breaking, of course, but then, you know, it's funny. Probably my favorite track on the record is this song called Number 2 by Lawrence Williams, which, you know, hasn't actually been recorded yet. Mm-hmm. Lawrence Williams, you know, being are you familiar with Lawrence?
No.
Do you know the tune Number 3? It's on Jerry Allen recorded it on which album is that? The Nurturer, I think. It's if you go to Detroit, you might people play that tune there. Okay. It's so Lawrence was a drummer and a composer that was really important to the communities of Detroit and the community of Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, where Kayvon is from. And our mentors and people in our lives were really, really profoundly impacted by Lawrence. And so we've been playing some of his music, and we have this tune. He has a series of tunes that are numbers. And number 2 is really a great tune, and we've been playing it and we recorded it, and I think it's my favorite take on the whole album. And Kayvon's bass drum pedal broke in the middle of the take. Wow. And me and Tyrone had no idea. Yeah. Because Kayvon plays with so much propulsion and has such a understanding of how the music needs to move, and is such a gifted orchestrator in a way, that we didn't notice that he wasn't playing his bass drum at all. And at the end he was like, "Oh man, we need to do another one." And I was like, "Oh, why? What happened?" And he told us what happened. But then when I listened back, it was the one. Yeah. You know?
So sometimes in these moments we get a sense of how great these people are problem solvers in a creative way. Like when Elvin has the same thing happening on the half note recording, and right in the most vulnerable moment for him in the duel with Train, and how he deals with that situation is like so creative. So I mean, you really feel for him, but it's also the way he treats that situation and goes all in is super inspiring.
Yeah. And I think that when something like that happens, it can make the music just that much more real and beautiful, you know. There's also another thing I'm thinking about is that record Monk's Time, I think. It's Monk's Time, right? Where they play a shuffle boil.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like the take and the retake. Yeah. And because they kind of like messed up the beginning. I love the messed up beginning. Yeah. It's the one for me. Yeah. And Charlie Rouse doesn't come in on time. Yeah. You know, and it's kind of very like raw. I love that though. I've always loved that sound and that feeling, and I don't care if something like that happens, you know. And in many cases I think it can enhance the like you said, the vulnerability of the situation, and playing yourself into a new, like you said, how are you moving out of this? I mean, that's very real. That's how life is. It's like you're in a situation. How are you going to, and the ways in which people throughout human history have found a way to get out of is fascinating, and it has created some of the most interesting things humans have ever created. Yeah. You know?
But I wonder, like, I think if these things happen to our bandmates, we think they're super interesting and we love these moments. But they happen to us. Do we think that these are the most interesting moments where, like, especially in the moment, like, we find it super inspiring and creative if it happens to our drummer. But if your saxophone unfolds and everybody else like, hey, super interesting moment when
I know what you mean. And I honestly have to say that I have been really trying to commit to this idea of like, if we do a take of something and it's the take and there's something in it I don't like that I did, or there's a tune on the upcoming record where I straight up like squeak like I'm in middle school band again. Yeah. And I am really, really trying to commit to accepting it and not fixing it at all. Because I've been in a lot of situations where I've seen, kind of going back to the recording thing, I've seen people making these fixes of certain things that one, don't feel necessary to fix. I mean, again, it's dependent on, I guess, what you're doing, the project or something. You know, if you're doing like hyper specific chamber music or something, then yeah, I mean, if something happens and maybe it needs to be fixed, but barring a situation like that, I feel like it, you know, maybe doesn't need to be fixed at all. And B, at a certain point, it's so many fixes that then it's like,
yeah.
This isn't even really the same thing anymore.
Yeah. It loses the life.
I think so. And so I try to remember, it's this thing you're talking about. I try to remember it for myself. It's like, okay, I love when this thing happened on this recording. I need to not be hypocritical with myself. You know, I've started a playlist for both me and for my students called Mistakes.
Nice.
Which is just a collection of things that I heard on great records.
Yeah.
That were somebody messing up.
Yeah.
Because it serves as a nice reminder of these things, you know. You know, there's even some, like you know, on El Gaucho on Adam's Apple, there's a section, because it's a tricky form, and the thing that sometimes people forget too is it's not like they're not playing a tune that we all know now because it's El Gaucho. They're playing a new tune they've never seen in their lives or played. It's like, you know, and it's a hard form, especially if you don't know the song, you've never played the song before, and they get lost and things get messed up and they find their way out of it. But it's like, they did that and we're like, yeah, that's going on the record. Yeah. That would never happen now for a lot of reasons, for technological reasons, for you know, monetary reasons, for radio play reasons, and I think for conceptual reasons. I think that's just not something that happens so much anymore, and there's so many examples.
Vanity also.
Right.
Vanity is also
everything
a factor.
Needing to everything needing to be this perfect polished presentation of something. It's like, man, so many of our favorite records have people blatantly, you know, and then, you know, the students, I think sometimes can be afraid to make mistakes. Not me. I should be more afraid sometimes. I'm content to make all the mistakes in the world, apparently, but some of the students are really afraid to make mistakes and take certain risks. And so I can use that sometimes as an example of like, hey, Train went to the bridge early on Speak Low. Yeah. And then he realized he did it and fixed it. It's okay. You know, so I'm trying to commit to that. There was a recording session I was a part of where the drummer took a great solo, and they were like, I kind of want to redo the solo. I was like, why you want to redo the solo? It was great. And they were like, I was kind of rushing a little bit. So I know this person loves Tony. So I don't say anything. I just pull up Refuge, Andrew Hill from Point of Departure, and I just play it. And you know, Tony, he's like 18, and he's playing so great. I mean, he's flying through. He flies through that melody so much that he flips the beat and then flips it back. Yeah. And it, you know, I don't know if it's intentional. It's ingenious because it has this like stretching of the, but maybe he was just rushing. Yeah. It's possible. I don't care. Yeah. I love it and love how it sounds. And a lot of
tempos on 4 and more, like speed up like crazy. Oh yeah. And we don't care.
Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. But the fact of the matter is, when you listen, Tony's quarter note flies ahead of everybody else's quarter note, intentional or not, right? And so I play that for this person, and at the end of the head, I turn it off, and they go, all right, I'm not going to re-record this song.
That's one reaction. Some people react to moments like this. Yeah, but that's Tony. You know what I mean? That's also a reaction that comes up when you know.
That's true. And sometimes, depending on the context, I might agree with that context. But then I think to myself, well, yeah, but Tony is Tony because of a number of reasons, one of which is this fearlessness that he had. He, you know, imagine, if he didn't re-record.
Yeah.
I think that there's so many reasons why these people become these giants to us, and I think that their attitude and approach to music making and the consistency in which they maintain that attitude over the course of their life is one of those reasons. I think, the sort of like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what it is. It's like you talked about foreign more. I mean, I think about that all the time. This was a young band. This was one of their first times playing with Miles, maybe their first, but I heard also it might've been their second gig with Miles. I heard maybe it wasn't their actual first gig with him, but
no,
regardless,
I don't think so, because they started.
You think it was the first?
No, they started playing with him in 63, and that was 64. Four more is 64.
I thought I remembered reading some interview somewhere where one of them talked about the fact that they had done a gig or some run of gigs before and then took a break and then did that gig.
Yeah.
So, but either way, it was new enough.
Yeah.
The way they play on that, I mean, I think about that sometimes, and I'll ask students about that. I'll be like, I'll say, be honest with yourself. Would you have done that? Like, if you were in a situation where Miles Davis called you for his band and you were playing So What, would you have gone in like that? Or would you have played it safe and said, oh, well, this is Miles, and, on Kind of Blue, Jimmy Cobb played like this, so, it probably wants me to play like this, or, all these things that we do, both as a result of, maybe insecurity and also, over intellectualizing things, They just played and they went in and they did their thing. And it's a shining example of the evolution of the music at that time, and one of the most revered and important records ever. So, I think that while you're right, or while those people who might say, well, yeah, but that's Tony. While I get where the idea of that, it's like, well, how do you think Tony became Tony?
Yeah, exactly.
Not by going, I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do it. Maybe I should play this way. I don't know. Maybe this is what Miles would want to hear. It's like going back to what we were talking about it's out of your hands. It's like if you play the way you think other people want you to hear, or if you play the way you think other people want you to play, you're, first of all, probably wrong. It's probably not how they want you to play. And it's a little insulting to the person, assuming that everything about what they would be looking for, right? I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Attitude, commitment, So I guess all that is to say, I'm trying not to remove the squeaks on my record. Trying to keep the squeaks.
I'll
if that's the take,
Yeah.
If that's the take, because that's another thing that I remember Ben Wolf talking about this with me when we did his recording. I remember he would listen to the first 8 bars of the take, and then he'd be like, yeah, this one, this is the one. And he'd be like, do you want to hear what the solos were like? He's like, no, I don't care. He's like, no, I mean, I hired you. I like the way you guys play, so it's fine. Like, I hired you to be here, so whatever solo you take is fine with me. I don't care. I'm happy with whatever solo you have. You're the only one who's not happy with whatever solo you have. What I care about is the group sound. This feel is better. This feel is more settled and more locked and feels better. This is the take.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that changed the way that I think about recording too, where it's like, yeah, I might squeak or squawk or feel like my solo was not as strong or something, but if the collective energy or the collective thing has the thing, that is way more important than what my solo sounds like.
Yeah.
And so I've just been trying to think about that more. And it is hard, though. It's hard to let go and
Absolutely.
be unattached and be selfless in that way of like, well, no, you know, it's about the greater good. It's like, yeah, but sometimes, you know, sometimes you want to represent yourself well. You know, and so it's so hard that balance of like you said, you're your worst critic, but you're also the first listener. Yeah. And so you want to play in a way that feels right and sounds right to you. But it's so hard because you can never truly know what it sounds like to someone who isn't you. So that's, you know, it's really hard to have that separation.
I think that's why what I was saying when I said like it's 1 month and then it's not yours anymore, because that's usually the time when I put out a record and then it comes to the release day and I listen to it maybe even on the day where not everybody but everybody who's checking out the album is listening to it, and then I really get a sense of it like going away from me, and I can start listening with other ears. And that's interesting. It's a cool moment.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like I'm always hearing it with my ears, so I might have to think about that. I mean
it's a perspective shift. Like also when you say like, okay, let's take Four and More. We've listened to this album so much, but once you show it to somebody new, like a student or a friend who hasn't heard it yet, you're listening to it with their ears together. Yeah. Like I'm not listening to it how I would listen on my couch or on the way to the gig on my own with my headphones. True. I'm listening also with their, like imagining their expectations and their doubts maybe even. So you listen in a new setting. Yeah. You know, it's funny. Okay, now that you say that makes sense to me. And that's actually why sometimes I don't like going to shows with other people. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I like going with other people, but sometimes I don't. Yeah. Because I want to experience it. You see your friend go like... or check their phone or whatever, and you're like, oh man, you know. Yeah. Sometimes if I just want to see something, I just go. Yeah. I don't tell anyone I'm going. Yes. If I see you there, I see you there. Great, but you know, you know, or even meals or movies. I mean, cinema. Yeah, exactly. Going to the movies. I love doing it. I mean, I just like doing stuff alone. Yeah. In general, but I part of it is that where it's like I don't want my experience of this thing to be too dramatically affected by what I what I think the other person wants to hear. Yeah. You know. Yeah. And just hear what I'm hearing and assess it honestly, you know, based on my feeling in the moment. Yeah. Because that can be different. Yeah. Day to day. I might be really in the mood to hear something one day and really not in the mood to hear something another day, but I'm there. And, you know, I was thinking about that the other day, actually, because I was was playing a gig somewhere and there was a pretty attentive audience, but there were a couple people in the front row on their phones, just like right in front of us on their phones. And I was thinking about it. I was like, man, there was a time before phones where if you went to the show and you hated it, you had two options: leave or continue to sit there. And if you continue to sit there, something will happen to you. Yeah. Your eyes might wander. You know, you might start, you might not be messing with what's happening. So you know, your eyes wander, you look around and you're taking in maybe what's on the walls of the club, or you're looking at you're looking around at the people who are at the club, and you know, you're looking at what they think of it, and to your surprise they enjoy it, and you start wondering about that. And you're looking at the bartender, and you're still being there, even if you hate being there. Yeah. There's still a presence. Yeah. You know, regardless. And I think that, you know, now it's maybe not so much that, but even if I do something and I don't really like it, or I'm not in the mood for it, I try to sit with it and be like, okay, you know, and then sometimes I'll be like, what is it? Yeah. You know, what specifically is it that maybe I'm not appreciating about this right now? And sometimes the answer is nothing to do with
the music that's being made. Sometimes it's really my stuff.
The mood you're in, yeah.
Yeah, or like I'm bringing something into the experience that's not really about the music. And then sometimes I can recognize that and be like, oh, I need to chill.
Yeah.
You know, I'm bringing something into, that's not fair. And
Yeah.
then sometimes I can remove that and then enjoy it. And then on the train home, be like, okay, I need to think about that. You know, why did I bring that in? Now, I remember talking to a friend of mine once about like, you know, man, imagine, you know, again, before phones, like imagine you're in New York and you do a rehearsal with Eric Dolphy, you know, and then you just got to go sit on the train and think about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
You just got to sit on the train, go home and think about what you just experienced, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You
Now,
can learn
after
so
great
much.
moments like that, I mean, or the great moments that we experience,
Yeah.
we kind of fill them up quite, you know, right away with something else.
Yes. That's another thing I'm trying to do less of. I'm trying not to just immediately, you know, walk away from a nice situation and be like this, you know, or like for a long time, I don't like listening to music after a show, you know, but lately I'm trying really to just be the person I was before I had one of these, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is hard because society is not the same society it was before we had these. So of course, in a way, we can't be the same people before these, but like theme of what we've been talking about today, it's like, it's there and you can tap into that space. You have to work harder for it, but there's a way to find it maybe.
Yeah.
The
other day, I teach a transcription course, and with my students, we transcribed petrichor.
No way.
Yeah, we did.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
So I had everybody do a transcription of that song. I mean, do a sheet of that song, and we kind of learned it together.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful. I really love that song.
Man, thank you. That's so cool to hear.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just I'm interested in when you wrote this and what your idea was behind it. We had some kind of theories.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're talking about maybe she was thinking of this a little bit, or I was wondering, did you write it at the piano and stuff like that, you know?
So I did write that on the piano. And I essentially just had the melody and the root motion. And everything else in terms of the chord quality kind of filled itself in later. And I had almost the same structure that the tune currently has and just about the same melody. But this tune, was originally written for the Artemis recording session. And so I sent the tune in to Renee, and she suggested taking the second half and moving it into a different key and finishing
I was wondering
it out
about
way.
that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering about, because the cool thing is, and that was what I was talking to my students about, is like, because I told them at first, okay, so we'll start making a mental transcription first.
Yeah.
By listening to this song, like we just took the head in, which is about 2 minutes something, and we said, okay, we're going to listen to this 5 times. And while we're doing this, we're kind of making a mental transcription of, okay, so this is section A, this is section B. Let's notice a couple of things after and talk about the things that we notice.
So good. It's so great.
Before we even start writing down something. And the thing is about the B section, what I love about the B section is like it feels like we're back at A. Mm-hmm. And the thing, that was my first assumption. Well, cool, we're back at A, and now she's adding a second voice. Uh-huh. But the cool thing is we're not, because we're in a different key, but it sounds so much like we're there. And it's just through the way that you move through the harmony that creates this illusion, which is perfect. It's really beautiful.
That was Renee's suggestion, and she was talking about how that was something Wayne would do, and because she played with Wayne and studied so much of his music, and it really helped. It really helped the movement of the tune, and it helped clarify the form too. The little extra section of form at the end became really inevitable once that happened, and it also became inevitable that the tune was in E flat. I didn't know it was in E flat. Mm-hmm. And then it became in E flat, kind of. It becomes really clear when we arrive at that point towards the end of the song that is really the kind of a certain landing point for it. And so that harmonic, that small switch made the whole rest of the tune unfold totally differently in a way that I think ended up making it feel more natural. And yeah, I wrote it thinking of a sensation, because for that record we all brought in a piece of music, and we kind of had a loose prompt, which was to write something that evoked some sort of special sensory experience in your life. That was it. That was really the only prompt. We even tried to assign different senses to people, but everyone forgot what theirs was. Someone was like, "Wow, you have touch? I thought I had touch." No, you had smell. And they're like, "Well, how do I write a song about smell? Whatever, all this and that." So, but I chose smell for myself, and I was thinking about this word, about petrichor, which is the smell of the earth after it rains, after it hasn't rained for a really long time. And that's such a specific smell. If you've smelled it before, you know exactly what it is, and it's such a powerful sensory image, I guess maybe is the word, or imprint or something on me that is so clear. And I grew up in a very rainy place. Portland is a very, very rainy, wet place, and the trade-off, of course, is that it rains 9 months out of the year, and the other 3 months it's like you're in heaven. It's the most perfect climate imaginable. It's warm and sunny, but it's not gross and sticky. You're by the water. You get the cool of the breeze. It's perfect, and that's the trade-off. And everything is green because it's been raining all year. And so I guess it just for me really related to this feeling of home and the sensory experience of home, and what that feels like, and in this case what it smelled like. Smell is such a powerful sensation. What was really funny about that album, the Artemis album, is that everybody brought in tunes about nature, and that was not the prompt at all. It just was what it was. Noriko, who's such a great composer, she
I love her song.
Oh, she's awesome. Yeah. And that tune is amazing. And so komorebi is a Japanese word for the beams of light coming through the trees and the tree canopies. That's komorebi.
Sweet.
All nature influenced in some capacity, and it was an accident. So that was kind of the inspiration behind petrichor. And then musically, definitely was thinking about Wayne. I mean, you can kind of pinpoint, there's 3 or 4 parts of the song where you could be like, and Nicole stole these chords from this Wayne tune, and later on your left you see the chords Nicole stole from this Wayne tune. So there are some extremely overt harmonic references, but I don't mind. I don't have any.
I always love this where when I hear what somebody's touched by and interested in, and
yeah,
I had to think of Miyako a little bit.
Oh yeah! Wow. Yes, I love that tune.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get, and it the meter being a similar, like a slow 3, for whatever reason, it wanted to, what the tune that I was writing, it became clear to me early on that it wanted to be in 3, whatever it was, you know, and
I could also imagine this song, like I was playing around with it and also took it to a little session yesterday. It was like,
that's so cool.
It could also be something like these changes, they are so inviting, and the melody, you could also play it as a something in 4 but fast also.
Oh, interesting.
You know?
Oh, that's interesting. I might have to try that, because I have played it faster. In fact, when I wrote it, I heard it at almost more like a dance cadaverous tempo. You know? And we got to the studio and Renee's like, we need a ballad.
Yeah. I see.
You know, and so I was like, all right, yeah, my tune can be a ballad, and
it's a beautiful ballad. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very touched by all this stuff you're telling me. That's amazing. That's so cool to hear. But yeah, I mean, it became a ballad, and it worked really well as a ballad. But I've been playing it a couple times in other contexts where I'm playing it more the tempo I originally wrote it at, and it kind of is cool there too. It depends on the situation, I think. My trio plays it, and we recorded it for the record, and it's really interesting to have it a trio version of it.
Oh, nice. Cool.
But we recorded it as a ballad, which again, it's funny. It's like, that's not how I wrote it.
Yeah.
I wrote it intending something else. I brought it to a situation. Someone else put something on it, and I took it back and kept the thing they put on it. You know, like what we were talking about earlier, because I didn't think to play it like that, and then I liked it, and I wanted to try it trio, and also we needed a ballad too. So I was like, well, okay, but yeah, man, yeah.
The great tunes are the ones where you can, there's an inevitability to them, but also you can see them in different perspectives and different light. So I think, there's a lot to discover in this piece. I was wondering, like, it's a very specific question, like the those things where there was the E flat pedal. Did you write it down as D flat over E flat, and then D over E flat, and then D flat over E flat, and then C over E flat?
That's a great question. I did not originally write it that way, actually. But it was my friend who is a bass player who rewrote them like that on his own chart. My friend Or Barakat. I played with this tune with him, and he rewrote those chords over my chords. And I was like, yeah, right, that makes sense. And he's like, I like to think about it that way, but it's effectively the same. The way I wrote it originally was just E flat, sus, 9, and then D over E flat, and then again the sus, and then E flat, 7, flat 9,
13.
13. Yeah, that's how I wrote it originally.
Okay.
So more, I guess.
That's what I had at first also.
Yeah, okay,
cool. And then I was like, because also the way that the voicing that Renee plays sounds to me like she's seeing it as an E flat 7, flat 9, 13.
Well, that makes sense too, because also when I sent her the tune, when I brought the tune to her, there were a couple things besides the like big, well, what if you put it in this key in the second half thing? There were a couple of other smaller things that she kind of brought to it about, you know, what you spelled it this way, what if we spell it this way, that sort of thing. So it was pretty cool. I got my tune edited by Renee Rosnes.
That's great.
It was pretty cool. So she definitely brought like some of her, you know, the harmonic knowledge that she has to the way in which some of these things were voiced, or again, taking a sound I already was hearing or had in mind and just finding a certain way to spell it that pianistically made a lot of sense and allowed her to get certain sounds out. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Man, that's
really beautiful.
So cool. That's so cool to hear.
I actually transcribed some more songs of yours.
Oh, man.
And I have questions about Blues for Mel.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, and my question is about the last 4 bars of the form, which get repeated for the ending, and then there's an even different ending for the very last time.
Yeah.
So, my question is, the voicings that Steve Nelson plays on the recording go in line with what you're playing in the melody and add one note, basically. One, you know, you play those fourths, and he adds 1/4 below that, and this voicing gets moved around. Yeah. And at first I thought, okay, the last 4 bars of the blues, it should be maybe C minor and then F7, but it seems like there's a specific movement in the bass that's happening. And my question for you is, like, how do you see those 4th voicings in relation to the bass notes that Tyrone is playing in the head? But then we talk about the final coda as well.
Okay, so here's the thing with that tune is that I know the last 4 bars have never been the same. Every time I played it with different people, we change it, or something has changed. So here's the deal with that tune is when I started playing with Christian McBride, right, when he put a new band together, he sent us an email basically the night before the first rehearsal out in LA and was like, bring some tunes. And I was like, uh-oh, you know, I'm like, man, I don't have any that I would want to bring into this situation, you know. And I also was like, I was already out. I didn't have like my stuff with me. Any stuff that I was working on was not on my whatever I had, iPad or whatever, you know, I was traveling with. So I was super unprepared. So I was like, man, well, okay, you know, what am I going to do basically? And I thought, okay, you know, I wasn't even totally sure what he was looking for or anything, you know. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm doing this rehearsal with him. I don't know how fleeting this opportunity is. If I could only play one thing with him, what would it be? You know, I was like, a medium blues in B flat. I was like, I feel like I would learn a lot from that experience, you know? So I wrote the melody in like 45 seconds. It was the fastest melody I've ever written. It was just like, because I left it to the morning of, because I couldn't think of what to write. And so I had to leave for the studio in like 30 minutes. And I just was like singing to myself and just wrote it down. So I didn't even know what the chords were supposed to be. It was just what I heard, and I just wrote it down. So then we get to the studio, and, you know, then they ask me the same question of like, so what's the turnaround here? And I was like, I don't know. You know, I have no idea. I haven't the slightest idea, you know. And it, you know, it was the same thing with the trio, where then, like, you know, playing it in that configuration, somehow it felt like there were different chords that we would use in the turnaround there, because it just sounded so different. And so it's total opposite of my other tune, where it's just like, I didn't know what the chords were. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember what chords we picked for this record, because we picked something, I think, in the moment based on the fact that we now had like a filled out, you know, sound, and it was a different sort of thing. And so we came up with something in the studio. The funny thing is, when we play this with Christian's band, if we play it, I mean, we don't play it too much these days, but we might play it as like an encore tune, you know. And we settled on almost outlining, the root motion almost outlines like a half diminished chord. So it's like D flat 7, E7, G7, B7, flat 5, 2 beats a piece, for the head only. And I kind of like that. That has a nice movement to it, and it works well with the melody. And we might have come up with that after I recorded it with the trio.
Right.
I think I also brought it to Artemis once, and I think Renee had an idea of what to do with a turnaround that was also completely different than everyone else. So I'm in my own head confused about what version I've done with what people and what conversations were happening. So, but if I were to play it now, I would tell people that the turnaround is the one I just told you, the kind of half diminished bass movement outline, because I think that feels good on the head. And it's
Can you repeat this? So you said 2 beats per each chord?
Yeah. So it's like
C sharp?
Yeah. So it's C sharp 7, C sharp 7, E7, G7, B7 flat 5, back to B flat. That sort of thing.
I see. Okay, cool.
And what I like about that is that because the melody is such a kind of like overtly kind of diminished sounding thing, I like that the root motion is not.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a diminished thing, but it doesn't complete the sound. That B7 flat 5 makes a big difference. You know?
Yeah.
And I don't remember who came up with it. I think it was a combination of Mike, King, Christian, and myself that kind of found that and ended up kind of going with it. But I like it. So I would keep that now, I think. And
do you change those chords for the very end then? Because on the very last time on the on the quartet recording, because Steve Nelson's on it also.
Mm-hmm.
You're changing the bass movement a little. Like there's two different notes in the bass.
What are they? Can you remind me?
Yeah. So it's like D7 sharp 9, and then it goes E flat, but it's like one chord each beat. So D7, E flat 7, E7, and then F sharp 7, B7, C7 going to F7, going to B flat.
Yeah. We did that. Yeah, right.
I
remember that. Oh, thank you. Wow. It's pretty crazy to see a tune of mine written in your iconic handwriting. I have to say, this is pretty cool for me. I think that turnaround might have been a Renee invention. That ending might have been a Renee invention I brought back to the trio. I think she might have come up with that. But then in Christian's band, they do something completely different. They do something I don't even know what they do, like quarter note triplets over it. The very last time. So we're going and the very last time they're going like and playing some chords there that, to be honest with you, I'm not even 1,000% sure what those chords are. It might be the same as these. I don't know. It kind of sounds like Mike has so much great harmonic language. It kind of sounds like he's just doing what he's hearing.
Yeah.
But they're kind of doing this similar sort of like faster movement to the end of the song. But yeah, to answer your question, I guess it's been that one has been a super malleable thing that a lot of other people have brought some really helpful insight into that tune, and it changes all the time, which I'm cool with too. Like I think sometimes the tunes really are what they are, and I think other times they can be changed. I mean, I remember Renee talking about that with Joe, that he would change his tunes all the time. He would change the chords in his songs all the time. He'd play his tune one way for 10 years and then be like, let's do this now.
Yeah.
And then play it that way. And I was like, oh, that's That's cool. It makes it really like a living thing.
Yeah.
In that way. And actually, you know, I'm realizing that on Petrichor, come to think of it, the end of that song gets played differently too in terms of the literal form. When I play it with, if I play it with Artemis, we, in the soloing, don't play the last 4 bars of the form. That's just for the head. Yeah. When I play it, if I play it with other groups, I've played it with Christian's band, where we play it at the faster tempo, and we play the full 8 bars at the end of that, you know, oscillating between the 2 chords. In my trio, we do something completely different. We play 3 bars. I'm saying I'm saying Petrichor. Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be funny.
Do something completely different. Go to the other song. Play the ending of that song.
That's right. How did you know that's what I was going to say? No, we only play 3 bars and then 3 bars.
Oh, cool.
Instead of 4 bars and 4 bars. And so we have it be like
so that changes the harmony also.
Exactly. And we've talked many times about which one it is. And we realize that it feels best actually if it's not the same. So I think it's 1 2 2 1. So I think it's like D flat for 1 and C minor for 2, and then B for 2, B flat minor for 1 top.
Yeah, nice.
And that was a Kayvon idea. He often has really, really cool structural arrangement ideas, and he came up with that, and it really works for whatever reason in that setting with that instrumentation. But then I have to remember when I play it with a different group.
Oh yeah.
I have to always be like, now which arrangement of my own tune did we collectively come up with to play with this band? And I've gotten it wrong before.
Yeah.
We played it with Artemis the other day, and I started to play the B major chord, but they got to G minor. So I tried to find a way to make that work.
Yeah. G augmented.
Yeah. I don't remember what I did, but it was funny and the best thing I had at the moment. I think I remember what I did, because when they hit the G minor, I was like, you know, I was like,
yeah,
it was so jarring. And then I made it seem like I did like a delayed resolution, but truly I just forgot what arrangement we were playing. I think, to be honest with you, if I remember, I think I heard it in the way I got out of it was like thinking of the B as like A flat minor, and then just playing A flat minor to G minor, which works.
Sure.
You know, it's like you said, finding how are you going to get out of this one, you know?
Yeah.
It's sometimes you just have to do it. And like you said, sometimes in the most vulnerable moment. And what's more vulnerable than the last thing you play on your solo on a ballad? I was like, oh,
yeah.
You know? So yeah, I guess I hope that answers some of
it does.
The questions. I still am amazed that you transcribed it. It's so cool.
Yeah, well, I love this song, and also what I love about Blues for Mel also is like the melody is so strong, such a strong gesture, such a strong thing, that in a way it makes sense that the things below it are more malleable a little bit. If you change the melody, that totally changes the song.
Yeah.
But the fact that the melody is so strong and such a statement in all of these sections, in all of these, 2 times the same thing, and then you change it and go to this other place.
Yeah.
And how these things go hand in hand with each other. It kind of screams for imagining it in different ways, because the melody is so strong.
Well, thank you. And I think also for me, like I wrote the melody and didn't have a harmonic idea in mind. I just is what I heard. So then it becomes a matter of like, okay, this is the melody. Let's find what could work for this.
Yeah.
Because I didn't write it with that. So when you have that, then there's so many things that could work with it. And I want to hear what, you know, the people I'm playing with, there's so many great minds. There's like Renee Rosnes and Christian. Like there's these people that's like, well, what chord would you put there? I want to know what chord you want to put there because, you know, I could come up with some stuff for sure, but wouldn't it be interesting to hear what you're hearing with no framework with this? And that's not an opportunity that I just get very often, you know, to workshop a song of mine with somebody like that, you know? And so it's really interesting to hear the feedback. And anytime I brought something into, you know, either of those groups in particular, I'm always really interested in the, you know, in the potential feedback. And sometimes they don't change anything. And then occasionally they'll have what if we, and it's usually a form thing. It's usually or I'll say, this is the melody, these are the changes. I'm not 1,000% sure how to get from here to here. Do you have a suggestion? And if they do, they will offer one, you know? And it's so great to have them, you know, willing to work with it, you know, willing to work with something that isn't 1,000% ready to go completed, that still maybe has some maneuvering, some workshopping to do. They're happy to meet me there, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know?
It's great to have an environment like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
Here's another one.
Man. I remember...
What a way to start a record.
I remember writing this one. You know, it was Pelt's idea, Jeremy Pelt's idea, to not play the head until the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was such a cool idea. I mean, wow. It would have completely changed everything if we played it at the beginning. You know?
Totally,
and so with that tune, me and Daniel we just went bar by bar, and we wrote a line over it, and we were kind of making games out of it almost, where we were like, okay, what if this next bar, or like these what if these next two beats are like what Garzone would play, and then the next two beats after that are what Lester Young would play. Like we were making silly little games with it. We're you know what I mean? Where we were like, okay, we're at this point in the tune, so let's find this sort of sound or this sort of voice. What might this person play here? That's
interesting because there's one moment in the song where I was like, this sounds to me like, what's that song? You know, that's like, I think that's a Nosmo King by Wynton Marsalis or. Yeah. So and then there's this one moment.
In bars 7 and 8.
Yeah. And that was a moment where I was like, this sounds familiar, or this reminds me of somebody.
We definitely were doing that. I mean, to be honest, I didn't know that we would ever record this song or anything. We were just like in my living room messing around, kind of having fun with it. We were actually doing it while we were all getting ready to set up to rehearse. We were just kind of messing around and then we had this line, and then we were like, "That's kind of cool." But it wasn't called Strange Lands. I called it that because I didn't have a real title for it. I called it that because I decided to call the record that. Yeah. But the working title for that tune for like a year was Jock Tenor Blues, because it like reminded us of that genre of tenor playing, where you just like get all of your shit off in F, you know? So we just called it that forever. And then we recorded, and I was like, I can't call this that. I need to give it an actual title. I cannot start my record with that as the title. That gives the complete wrong idea. You know, it was called that in jest. You know, I'm not going to actually call it that. So that's a little silly insight into that. But that's what that was.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Did you, I mean, super specific also, like, did you write down changes for this, or because I just said F blues, because I assume that's what you did.
Exactly. I didn't have specific changes for it. Okay. We just played F
That's
blues.
Sometimes something that I struggle with when I transcribe songs or arrangements of songs that are based on forms that we know very well. Like I haven't finished my transcription of Herbie's arrangement of Cottontail because I can't get myself to pinpoint the actual changes that he's playing in the A sections when he's not modulating. So when is Herbie writing down rhythm changes, or is he writing down rhythm changes in A flat, and then because in the last A he goes to F and all these, and then there's this crazy bridge. But like I can't bring myself to pinpoint Herbie's view of the A section of rhythm changes because he always does so much, you know, that it's hard to say what he's actually coming from, maybe.
Yes, and I know what you mean, where you don't know necessarily if what he's doing is just simply what he is hearing in the context of rhythm changes, or if that is how it was predetermined or how it was crafted, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Because if it's just rhythm changes, he might play that anyway.
Yes.
Because he's hearing all these different things, but it could be that is interesting. For some reason, I was thinking about Mulgrew when you were talking about that, thinking about some of his tunes that are based on other tunes, like Promethean, based on Days of Wine and Roses. And I'm pretty sure for the first couple bars, there are changes.
Yeah.
At least for I think he probably has changes for all of it. Come to think of it. Not that it's necessarily the same thing, but I was just thinking about that. Where he's doing these reharmonizations, but they're definitely embedded in the tune. I wonder what Herbie's. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. McCoy does stuff like that too, where you're like, you have to wonder.
Yeah, what was on the original sheet?
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen some of those original lead sheets for some of the stuff that Wayne played with the Miles Quintet. Yeah,
I have them. Yeah,
that stuff is really, really, really interesting. And I went
very revealing. Yeah.
Yes, and I remember also with my students, I think at the end of last year with my improv class, I came in. It was one of the last classes, if not the last class, for the final or something. And I came in with a plan of what I wanted to do that day, but then I came in and they were trying to figure out Pinocchio. And I was like, I have the chart for that. And of course they were excited about that. So what we did is we pulled up the charts on the screen and we would listen to it and follow along. Yeah. We would read along. I love doing that. Yeah, we would read along with what was happening, and it became clear, obviously, that Miles and Wayne are not really playing the changes so overtly, at least on that recording, on the fast recording, right?
Yeah, there's a slow one also.
Yeah, on the fast one, at least, they're not really overtly playing the changes as we're seeing them pass in real time, right? It becomes clear that they're playing the sound of Pinocchio, the vibe of Pinocchio. It's like, it's not necessarily the changes, but it feels and it sounds great and right and like the song. And then Herbie comes in and it's clear he's playing the changes. Yeah. And it's interesting how everyone treats it. And so we talked a little bit about that idea of striking that balance. Now, these are super advanced students. So if they weren't so advanced, I would probably say should learn how to play the changes. But they, you know, they can. So we were talking about that, about, you know, kind of that balance of playing the changes and playing the tune in the way that the tune was maybe originally intended to be structurally. And then also, when do you then let your ear move you into a space that is maybe not rigidly within that? And we had a lot of different theories, you know, a lot of different conversations about when that could happen, how that might happen, who initiates that sort of movement, that sort of thing. And we had a lot of fun checking out the recordings and answering those questions with that band and saying, well, who's what's happening here? When Miles' solo starts, where does Ron move? Does he stay with the changes? If so, for how long does he stay with them? Yeah. At what point is he playing with Miles? Or at what point does and really examining those relationships and seeing how they do it. And it was really fun to do that with the page in front of us, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's, in the information age, sure, would I have liked to be around at a time where there wasn't so much accessibility to all this information? Yeah, maybe, but I'm not. I'm here at this time, so I might as well take advantage of it as much as possible. Yeah. If I have the ability to put Pinocchio up on the screen and follow along with it, I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? It's a cool resource.
All these bootlegs that all of these people didn't have, you know.
Right.
We have all these additional session reels and all this stuff, which also give great insights into how they might have sounded like on the other night and stuff like that.
Man, I was just talking about the circle session reel with someone.
Yeah.
The way they work out the form on that.
Yeah.
It's so wild. And you can't, I feel like, unless you hear the session reel, I could not figure out what the form was of that tune until I heard the session reel. And until I heard, and I know you've done some stuff with that tune, dealing with that tune. And for me, it all became clearer once I actually heard them rehearsing it and talking through the form. And I was really relieved to hear that, one, they were as confused as I was at first.
Yeah.
And two, that what they came up with was what they came up with then, in that moment, in the situation that made the most sense to everybody collectively.
Yeah.
And maybe wasn't exactly how Wayne brought it in. How Miles brought it in, I'm sorry. That's one of Miles. And I always wonder also how much of that was written. Because there's that moment on the session reel where Miles plays a melody, right? And there's the problem with the technology, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, Miles, we have to cut it." And Miles like, "Man, that was great. What I just played was so good. How did you miss that?" But it was a part of the melody, and it wasn't what he played before. And then there are times where it is the same thing he plays. So I'm wondering how much of that was written down and how much of it wasn't. And I sort of wonder if the only part that was really written down was the ba-dee-da-da-da-da-da.
That's it. That's what I think too. I think the most of it was changes. Yeah. Sometimes bass movements, and sometimes like few specific voicings, and especially that moment. And then also, like, have you checked out that it's actually based on the Dread Dog song from Somewhere Prince Will Come?
It's based on what?
So Circle used to be Dread Dog.
Oh, wow.
Which is a interesting ballad on Somewhere Prince Will Come, where so Miles took Dread Dog and assigned numbers to different parts of the song, creating a new form out of those numbers.
Wow.
And then also reharmonizing those harmonies, putting different bass notes to them, putting a different meter on the whole thing, and then it becomes this new piece which is called Circle, and then and then he then takes Circle and builds this crazy form out of this new form, where I think he's still assigning numbers to the specific form parts of Circle. That's what I did on my sheet. I did a YouTube video on this also, like where I assigned numbers to those parts.
Yeah.
And for each solo, there's a different sequence where Miles puts the quintet, makes them go through these numbers, you know.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
my theory was that there was a basic sheet with numbers on it and written material. And then he said, okay, for Herbie's solo, we're going to do 3, 1, 2, 2, 3. And for Wayne, we're going to, I don't remember what it was now, but that's what I think.
Wow, that's great. Man, wow. I think that's so cool. I think that organization was Miles's like divine gift.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, in every way, it was so clear.
And seeing potential in things.
Yes.
Seeing potential.
Yeah, for sure. It's so clear that those were two of his like divine gifts. I mean, the way that he is able to put things together in all the ways that means, put bands together, put melodies together. And then putting this tune together. This tune is like a perfect metaphor for what Miles does so well. And it's just understanding how things are supposed to go together. I think it's incredible. I remember when I was younger, I had a teacher who said to me, not a lot younger, but a bit younger. I had been playing for a bit, had some facility, whatever. He said, what if I told you that the difference between you and Miles Davis is not technical? Like, what if you already had the same capacity to play your instrument technically that Miles Davis did? Now, I didn't necessarily think that was true, but I got his point.
There's truth to that, yeah.
I got his point. It was like, what's the difference between you and Miles Davis? If that is true, if we accept that to be true, or not even just me, but any one of us who are studying our instruments and studying this music at a high level, who have a certain amount of facility and capacity to play the instrument, what's the difference? You know, and that got me thinking about this and about that conversation really set me down this, you know, love and intrigue of organization and the way that people are putting things together, because that's really what it is, isn't it? It's like, you know, Ahmad Jamal, you know, Duke, Monk. It's like Train. It's like you know, understanding Bird, like the understanding just how to construct, how these things work with one another. It's that's really the thing. And that's really that kind of like mysterious thing. It's like, how does this all come together? How do we make something together, you know? And how do we not play the same thing as each other, but have it still work? Which is another thing that me and my students talk about a lot, because, you know, I think that sometimes these days, and not that I'm not guilty of this too, but I think there's a tendency for everyone to try to play the same thing as each other. Do you know what I mean? And at the same time. And when you really listen to the music that we love to listen to, they're not really doing that.
No, it's complementary and contrasts and balance.
Like the idea of interaction is really different now, I think, than it maybe was. It's like interaction being, I gotta catch what you're doing immediately and do it with you, is really new. Like it seems like that's, you know, that's not really what we're hearing people do before. I mean, and, you know, one of the best examples, even if you take a group that's super dense and super interactive, you know, you take the John Coltrane Quartet, right? And like you listen to McCoy and Elvin when they start to get into their dotted quarter note thing, right? They're playing it together, but if you listen to what Jimmy Garrison is doing while that is happening,
yeah.
And I think modern rhythm some people might be more inclined because we've heard this thing, it's familiar to us, we all know what this is, the McCoy Elvin quarter note thing. I think it's more common maybe for the whole band to like want to play it together or something like that, but that's not really what they were doing. And it's that is one of the greatest mysteries of the music to me, is how you can have these parts that are distinct, that are different, that are individual, that are unique, that come together in a way that feels so inevitable that it couldn't have happened any other way.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Man. You know, it's funny, but before we did this, you know, I was looking at some of the other, you know, interviews that you've done that I've seen and just revisiting. I mean, I've loved your interviews since you've been doing them. I think you're one of the very best at this. I mean, it's, you know, the rich tradition of musicians talking to and interviewing other musicians, which has long been important for us, right? Notes and tones and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think you're one of the standout voices of that tradition. And so I'm happy to do this. I'm so happy to do this with you. And when I was looking at some of the other ones, and I was looking at some of the average times of them, I was like, oh man, well, I like to talk, so hopefully I can keep it under a certain amount of time, but it's great to talk to you. I mean, it seems like we have many things that are in common, favorite things we like to notice, things like that, so it's easy, and we'll do it more in the future.
Yeah, it's really nice to get to know you, and thank you for doing this with me.
Man, thank you for doing it with me. It means a lot to me. It was a lot of fun.